This is an icing on the cake, which is cool, great to have icing, but this is all that we have because all we perceive is the icing on top. That's what easily presentable on social media. I don't want to be a slave to that. It's a famous round in boxing that has been won without one punch being thrown. This is for me the highest level of mastery. To be silent. There is a peace inside of me when I'm in that rage. I don't want the workshop to be devoid of these highs and lows and emotions. And I also don't want my life to be devoid of that. What is the aesthetics of skill? You immediately recognize that's efficient. That's why you don't say efficient, you say it's beautiful, that cat-like thing. Nothing added, nothing taken away. Changing the model of how you move is more powerful than all the training you're going to do in your life with the same model. Just having this little practice of this building and constructing a different model can transform more of you.
Familia, ¿qué tal estáis? Este episodio está patrocinado por B-Levels. B-Levels es la marca de suplementos en la que tanto Omar como yo confiamos, también Dani, al cámara. Tomamos estos suplementos todos los días y bueno, vamos variando en cuanto a suples.
Depende de la época.
Depende de la época del año y cada uno tiene sus necesidades, ¿no? Sí que es verdad que hay algunos que son como básicos. Muchos expertos que han venido al podcast nos lo han dicho, como el magnesio, la vitamina C.
Nos pasó el otro día, estábamos en el parque con mi hijo y nos paró un chico en el parque y nos dijo: oye, chicos, ¿qué suples tomaríais vosotros de B-Levels? Y dijimos los básicos, ¿no? Magnesio, omega 3, vitamina C y ¿qué más dijimos?
Colágeno y creatina y...
Bueno, en el caso de que quieras la creatina a nivel deportivo y cognitivo muy bueno. Y el colágeno, con el café por la mañana, Uri es un killer de eso. ¿Sigues con eso cada mañana?
Sí, a nivel intestinal y más ahora que me he metido en temas por mi hijo, de unos eczemas que ha tenido, es muy básico para reparar el intestino, mantener que no la capa protectora, que esté ahí bien lubricada, esa glicina, ese colágeno.
Aparte es un hack muy bueno para hacer un café con leche más espeso. Porque cuando le echas, o un matcha con leche, le echas un poquito de colágeno, nosotros le echamos un extra de mantequilla, batidora de B-Levels también, que va muy bien, miradla online, no es broma, a mí me salva la vida, el chisme ese, y luego te sale un café fantástico. O sea que, otra cosa importante, si tenéis dudas sobre dosis, que si le puedo dar a mi hijo o no le puedo dar a mi hijo, cuántas pastillas tomo de esto.
Estoy embarazada,
tengo no sé qué de la tiroides. Tienen un lugar en la web donde podéis hacer preguntas y os contestarán personas especializadas que sepan lo que tienen que decirte. Sí. O sea que ante la duda, no nos hagáis caso a nosotros, pregúntale a B-Levels directamente, ¿vale?
Sí, y al final, si os mola el podcast, ya veis que al final muchos de los expertos que vienen, expertos en salud o biohacking o estilo de vida, recomiendan muchos de los suplementos y adaptógenos, por ejemplo, que podéis encontrar en la página de B-Levels. Usando el código Antifragil, tienes descuento en toda la web de B-Levels, en todos los pedidos que hagas. Código Antifragil en la página web de b-levels.com siempre que pidas tus suplementos. Seguimos con el episodio.
Today we have a very, very special person with us.
Many people are maybe is thinking, why this guy is talking to me?
Yeah, because it's the first podcast we do in English, and it's a pleasure to have you here, Ido.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming. We have this interview after having a beautiful experience this weekend with you in your workshop. And thanks to Anna and Dani as well, that they came to another podcast to prepare this podcast. And I'm also very proud of my friend and partner, business partner, because you said something about being courageous and brave in life, how important it is. And I think what you're doing today is very courageous as well, and very brave, because he's not used to speaking in English. So we're going to have a very, very deep conversation that requires a lot of your capacity. So thanks a lot for opening your space, opening yourself in this space. And welcome. I say welcome again, because it's like a little dream to have you here in front. You know, we've
Thank
seen
you very much.
We followed you for many years And yeah, let's start the conversation with. Do you want to start with this question that
Yeah.
is a little bit more personal?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, why not? Why not? And just to add a little bit more thing, I start with that question because the thing that I saw is one of the most impressive things that I saw during the workshop is your capacity of getting to it. You have a skin in the game. So it's my vision. I think that people around you maybe sometimes is a little bit afraid to ask you simple questions, like this question. Hey Ido, what about cheap race? I have knee pain. Because Ido is going to say me, you're stupid. So let's bring the conversation right here.
Yeah, you're perceptive. I guess people don't really practice the questions part of things. So when you actually answer their questions for a change, things get confused because we're not used to actually addressing the simple questions even, and then we're not really practicing the asking of the question. Try to just answer people's questions, like how are you, and see what happens. Everything goes somewhere else, away from the chit chat and away from things, but in the beginning it creates a reaction. Maybe that's why people are sometimes afraid. About your question, I can't comment on anyone's system because I'm not familiar, which is also the same assumption is done towards my approach. Not that I have a system. I have many systems, but I don't have a system. I work with something else. But I'm familiar with this approach and using similar things from what I know and from the outlook. And this can be very useful. But especially it is present and it is useful from the place that you could make use of it. And this shouldn't be ignored. And you mentioned it. It was simple and it gave you an immediate experience. Where maybe something more useful you cannot use. And so maybe that will require the next step. Nowadays we are very much bounded. We are interacting with the things that we have the possibility to interact with. And I think this is a major, if you talk about weak links, that's the real weak link. That a lot of stuff is just prevented from us because with this level of focus, with this level of concentration, even basic elements like this, with this level of shallowness, redundancy, a lot of good stuff that really can transform and touch us is moving away from us. Attention spans are so small. So then you give someone some exercises and it works great and I believe in it. It's a door opening. All those tools are busy with one thing that I was also a precursor to in the world. I'm also a student of Charles Poliquin from the 1990s and formulated this approach from the early days. My students remember from late 1990s, we're doing Peterson step-ups, external rotation, Cuban rotations, like things like that, hamstring, hair up curls. If you Google it by the original, like the older word, you will find my videos in the beginning doing it already. And those tools are very good, but they all belong to one system, compensatory system. They are helping you compensate. No weak link, no such thing exists. It's just a question of pulling the chain more, and there will always be a link that breaks. It's impossible you only move the weak link around.
Wow.
You never eliminate it. So in a way, theoretically, if you understand what I'm saying, you understand how if you strengthened your current weak link, you might create a new weak link somewhere else. No weak links, no such, those are dreams, those are illusions. Compensatory systems protect when you are coming out of the optimal, out of homeostasis, out of the optimal position, biomechanical position or otherwise. And then you have that capacity to protect yourself because you have practiced beyond that boundary. This is one approach. Second approach, which many systems also work with, are optimization systems. They don't busy with creating this buffer around the optimal. They are busy expanding the optimal or further refining the optimal to move correctly.
Okay.
For the simple understanding. I belong to both camps. I like to use whatever is useful, and I've moved over 30 years of teaching. I'm celebrating this year 30 years of official teaching. I've seen a lot of things and moved between approaches, and I view the combination is the most potent and not really pursued by many people or many systems, since the systems tend to be simple to understand and hit and create a critical mass. So I use still in the prescription of my students things like TBL raises and hair up curls and this, but I will also employ the other side, which is optimizing the mechanics, hence increasing the optimal and increasing the buffer around the optimal. Good? Give you something?
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate all the words.
I think it's very interesting the approach, because nowadays we live times that we tend to standardize everything, right? We look out there and everybody has a certain program, a certain nutrition, a certain way of seeing life that might be, we call it a dogmatic way to try to save your life. No, it's my method and it's the only way. And I think you touch it in a very individual way. Like the practice is an individual thing. When we talk about practice, which is a concept that you constantly bring on the table, what do you refer by practice?
Practice is a way of being and a way of becoming, which interacts with these two things. How I go through this thing here. What is this thing here? What is this? What are we doing here? We are passing time here? Life is for living, people say. That is probably the biggest lie of them all. Life is not for living. If life was for living, then as we live, so shall we die. It's meaningless. Life is for learning. Life is a practice. Life is for elevation, for transformation. We are here. We received an opportunity. Maybe it's a very rare opportunity to be here. Some traditions look at it through that way. And this opportunity is about us changing, transforming something, realizing something. Why? What's the point of realizing it if there is already something bigger that knows it? Because more of that thing can have this realization, more of itself, individually to choose to be there. So, as you are provided this opportunity, the time that we have here is all about practice and not about life. Actually, the word life equals practice, but that's not the way that I use it at the moment. And that touches the physical, that touches the spiritual, the mental, the intellectual, the emotional, and any other thing. And this is what I'm talking about when I speak of practice.
It's I think we could talk about the somatic experience that we had in the workshop. Like we were talking that we haven't we haven't worked out or done anything since we left your workshop, because we had this feeling of digesting the whole thing. Our body needed some time to understand what happened, because it went deeper into the nervous system itself. It's a muscle pain that it's not just a normal muscle pain. It goes a little bit deeper. It even touches some nerves in some part of the being, right? And what was the thing that, because I understand you started in capoeira as a very, I don't know if it was your first touch with movement. Now you can explain us a bit more. But what has been your journey? If you can take a little bit of distance, so for us to understand Ido's journey, because we all have, as we mentioned before, we all have rites of passage that changes us and allows us to expand, to grow, sometimes to contract, because life sometimes is about this, or it can be like a roller coaster. Can we take some distance and understand what Ido went through, or to get to the point where you're right now at?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can. Retrospectively, we like to understand, right? Like we can view it running backwards, and then we get this feeling of like understanding.
The puzzle, no?
That's how it evolved. But this would not still be very fruitful for the current moment and for the future. That we tend to use history to learn from the mistakes of history. Obviously, it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. We've been trying to do that for a lot. History is also a distorted entity, right?
Yeah.
So also when I'm reviewing back, I might not do justice to what was there. These are narratives. These are stories that I tell myself. But yeah, I can give some outline. I as a kid, I was in martial arts from age of 6, something like this, Chinese martial arts, and then Japanese martial arts, and various sports. And then at 15, I met capoeira, which was a unique beast. It is a unique beast in terms of the movement world. And not only movement, because it is a cultural manifestation. It is something very ancient that maintained itself in that tradition to a large degree. It includes inside of it theater. It's very dangerous. Physically, it's very dangerous, but many people don't know.
I didn't know it.
Yeah, people die on the streets in capoeira rodas every year. It comes from Brazil. Somebody is doing a cartwheel in capoeira, and out of his pants fall scissors. What are you doing with scissors on the street? It's a kid with nothing. So you have stabbings, shootings. I've had all my teeth knocked out. I swallowed my teeth sometimes. Somebody kicked me in the face, dislocated my jaw, broke my nose multiple times. I also practiced other martial arts, which are direct martial arts, boxing, BJJ, etc., MMA, working with fighters. But I can say honestly that the scariest place I've been is capoeira, because in that sense, you don't know whether it's going to unfold in this way or in a very peaceful way and beautiful way. So there is always a tension, and it happens on the street. There is no categories, there is nothing there, and it comes from Brazil. And Brazil is that reality of survival, of being. Also at the same time, it is very beautiful, musical, rhythmically, sexuality. So at 15, I was already in Brazil, traveling to Brazil every year for 2 months with my teacher, and I started to teach right at the beginning, almost immediately, because there were very few people doing capoeira. And this totally transformed me. I speak the language fluently, and I became Brazilian in many ways in order to genuinely follow this capoeira thing. When I was 17, I had 250 students already, and big facility, and We were in the cinema doing commercials. I would go to a cinema with my girlfriend, and my commercial would come up. We were in TV shows. Capoeira in Israel is very developed. Some would say the best in the world, even more evolved than Brazil. Some would argue France, Israel, and Brazil are the strong scenes. So it became a thing. We became something else, transformed by it, and it also started to transform my concept of practice and my concept of movement. I didn't know it back then. The last thing that it transformed is the concept of community. And those three words, for me, are central words in what I do. In the sense that nothing happens alone. Everything happens alone. And nothing happens alone. You can only practice alone. You live alone, you are born alone, live alone, you die alone. On the way, we are communicating, but there is a depth that we cannot touch. What Emmanuel Levinas calls the otherness. When I watch your eyes, there is something untangible, unreachable. But it's also inside of me. I have the same otherness. We all do. Something that is unreachable, that is not fully grasped or communicated. And then this thing of a culture, of a practice, what I later called movement culture and became very famous, is the playground in which we practice. And then movement is the medium. So you have practice, you have movement, and you have the place where it occurs, the culture or the community. Capoeira gave me big gifts in all these things and boosted me forward. Because over there, it's all tribal, it's all community. I was surrounded by students, by my teachers, exchanging with colleagues, traveling to Brazil, conducting workshops, running events, big events. So I had to learn how to do all those things. Movement, physical movement was very present, but also other types of movement. It's a very emotional place. You sing, you use your voice, you use musical instruments. You communicate, you have messages that are running back and forth. Brazilians are probably some of the most emotional people on the planet.
Wow.
Yeah. And all this was touching me. And then the practice side, that was the least developed side of it. In the sense that you have practices, capoeira practices, but there is no talk about, not much talk, let's say, about evolution. There is more of a construction in a way that I know, in a way that I dictate. And that's not what I mean when I mean developing myself. Not me sitting somewhere and calling the shots. I want to do this. Oh, I take this I don't take, this I do. Picking and choosing. That's not evolution. Evolution is a force that is applied on us and evolves us. It's not us picking and choosing. That's anti-evolution. And we can get to do it to a certain extent if we are also employing various schemes of evolution, right? Then we can navigate some things. So that was a transformative moment, and at a certain point, this part of the practice continued to ask more and more and more. And at a certain point, capoeira was not enough in that sense, where I wanted to evolve myself. And I saw this is the ceiling. This is here the ceiling. This is where it goes. It doesn't go beyond that. They have a philosophy, for example, in capoeira. There are many philosophies, but they reach a certain level of, observing or doing, at least from what I found. And I went and I've met the greatest ones of them all. I've had students win world championships. I myself traveling and competing and teaching workshops in Brazil as well, and teaching all over the world. And so I started to move away and look for more and more tools. And I also played football as a child and competing in track and field and many other experiences. And I started to realize, wait, there is a theme here. First, there is this body that does not lie to me. Here in my head, I lie to myself. I have all these, and the scariest one is when I don't know that I lie to myself, this is the most relevant one. But the body doesn't lie. When I am employing the body into something, I get a very tangible thing. So in the morning, when we were drinking the coffee, I said, I don't pay too much attention to what people say in the words, but I pay attention to how they say it with the body, with themselves, and then the words can have a meaning. Sometimes it's totally conflicted, and sometimes it's aligned, and sometimes it's just very different. So that evolution continued and opened, and I went and researched physical theater, and I worked on stage for a while, and I researched various other disciplines. I researched yoga very deeply and studied that, and various other arts and systems and somatic systems, and I'm quite a researcher in that sense, that I read a lot and I practice a lot. That's all I do. I don't do nothing else. I don't have a family in the traditional sense, and that's what I do.
Do you think? I think that's a very important part of the whole thing, which is we see a lot of theory. We see a lot of people that actually nowadays they take. I don't know if we mentioned it in the workshop, but nowadays it seems like somebody takes a course of 1 week of something and they can be teachers right away, right? And we lost the humbleness of the student, of the apprentice. And I think what makes it very clear in the way you live is that you know the theory. As you said, you were sometimes reading 3 books a week or 4 books a week. So the theory was there, but the empirical part was also there, which is sometimes the part that society is missing or not using. And as you said, you are one of the few teachers that that say publicly that my students might have had some kind of injuries sometimes because I brought them to places that they needed to have that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be a good teacher, right? Yeah. So, as how important is the empirical part in your life, and how at some point the theory could enter in a mental space that the concept could restrain, it could, how you say it, condition the empirical part if we enter too much in the theoretical?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, how important it is. It's so important that all I speak about is the word practice, which is already that's the empirical. Yeah. We also use the word in that way, theory versus practice. And you know the funny phrase about the difference between theory and practice. And that is a very good point, right? In theory, they are the same, but not in practice.
Okay.
It's a very good and funny saying. And that's why, for me, the center core is practice. Once you practice, let's talk about it. But if there is no practice, what are we talking about? This is all we talk about these days. This is why we get corrupted by this. And when it's time to actually go back to the doing, to the practice, we don't know how to do that. And we discover very quickly, those of us who are honest, I don't want to practice. That's what one will see. I see it a lot. When first I saw it within myself, and then I see it a lot with people. Of course, once you start to tackle it, you sniff it everywhere. Even with students of 10 years or 15 years, I still view it every day. When it's time to do it, I don't want to practice. And it's okay as long as there is first an honesty that develops towards it, and that second, you find a place within you from which you can practice, which is there, available. Not a grind. You know, that is the other side nowadays that is promoted via the hardcore people, the David Goggins, etc. This doing, respect to the doing, but what you find on the other side of that doing, because I am coming from a similar place, I can say for myself, that doing is not amounts to much, besides a lot of damage. Why? Because if you didn't use the doing to find a place from which you can choose, then you're still not choosing. So what does it help you that you are bringing this mechanicality out? It reminds me of an occurrence I had when I was younger. I have fear of heights, pretty substantial. And I went to bungee jump with some friends. I realized that I have a fear of heights, but I said, it will be okay, I'll find a way. And we were in Greece many years ago, 25 years ago, something like this. And we climbed this crane and jump into a swimming pool below. And you see the swimming pool, it looks so small all of a sudden. And when I'm standing there, I realize, no, there is nothing in me that can jump. There is nothing in me that can take the decision. And I watched the girls around the swimming pool and my friends that jump down and those who are supposed to jump behind me. And I'm like, I'm not coming down, but I'm also not jumping. So I just like a sneeze or a hiccup, I just threw myself. Just like against this is what we do. This is the grind. So that bungee jump is not mine. I didn't overcome shit. Forget about all the talk. This is the talk that we have these days. Oh, I went there to my fear and I did this and I did that. I took the ibogaine. Then I did the 5 Well, you could have done it all and you could have very little to do, which is case in point. Why you did it 5 times or 7 times or 17 times. It is an opportunity. It is a bungee jump. But the question is, are you the practitioner that can use the opportunity? Or are you just doing something else? Eventually, the bottom line is nothing. I jumped or I didn't jump. That's not important. How I jumped. How do I practice? Today, I need to do something very, very difficult. Whether it is I need to sit without moving for 3 hours, or I need to go run a marathon, or I need to have a sparring match in a gym, and I'm afraid. The fact that I will do it or not is of no real value to me. What is the value is how I will go there and do it.
Can I give you an example on this? Because I feel very connected to this part. This summer I had a very spiritual experience in an a water park. And I'll explain you why. As a kid, I went with my parents to. We open a lot our personal life in this podcast. You'll see, and I went to a water park with my parents as a kid, and I was trying. As a kid, we navigate the relationship with our parents the way we navigate it with the tools we have, and there was an attraction there. There was a slide, very very extreme slide that only my father could go. I couldn't go. But I couldn't go. I wanted to go, but I was too afraid of going. So I created kind of a separation there of some type that it was in my mind for many years, and I didn't realize. And this summer we went with my son to another water park, and the same attraction that I couldn't take as a kid, it was there. And my son was with me, and he couldn't take it. But then I took that attraction, because I took it as a rite of passage. Now it's my turn to be a father. Now it's my turn to be able to take that one day you couldn't. So I understand what you say, because I went with a very clear intention behind the rite of passage that I was living there. And something completely unblocked after that experience, a somatic, something that really, because it was representing lots of things. It was a capsule that suddenly the floor would open without me choosing. So I had to leave control as well. Someone else was choosing for me, and I was falling in the void. For me, that was an acceptance of decisions that life sometimes take for me. And I need to be acceptance. in the state I am, right? So I don't know if that's what you meant, and I don't know if that's a good example, but bringing a purpose behind the act would have changed the experience in your case?
Bringing the act before the purpose is even better way to talk about it, and it's a very nice example, which again most people will not conceptualize as a practice. But this is what I mean with a practice. It's just a simple example. Not that I'm looking always to apply it in this way in life, because it was a very romantic notion, but it worked. It was a ritual. It was a practice. So you could contain the required transformation or change within this container, and you receive the transformation for it, where you could talk about it until the cows come back home, and you wouldn't have anything with a psychologist. But the fact that you had that slide, that experience, and that you felt the physical fear in your body and your son and the connection and everything, you have created for yourself a little piece of practice. The practitioner has a gift for seeing such opportunities and facilitating them and constructing them. But it will not start from water slides, etc. It comes from your other experiences, practices, and understandings, and it can become very, very powerful. Without this capsule, what do we have? We have no way to... We talk about it, but we don't have it. Even we seemingly have it. Again, like I say, it doesn't matter how you went down that slide. It doesn't matter whether you went down that slide or not. It matters how you went down that slide. So even though somebody might be a world champion or a fighter or somebody who seemingly does it or very successful, made a lot of money or this or that, that doesn't mean shit in relation to actual practice and real transformation, because there is all these compensatory ways of doing it. And there is other ingredients, how you look and your ability to communicate with people. For example, will make a certain person very successful, and he's remains a very limited person in many ways, in spite of all that success. Actually, it's very common to see successful people who have the essence of a 5-year-old. Like when you truly fade your eyes a little bit and you watch beyond the big words, the fancy clothes, etc., you see that there is a 5-year-old down there that never developed beyond it, and because of lack of practice. Practice went to a different place. Schooling, personality, construction of those things, using this, using that, all the time the success. Do I do it or don't I do it? And there is very little discussion with the how, with the way. And the how takes you beyond that to you, to who is there doing it. Levels, right? Like there is some levels here, and good to be in every place, but good to have awareness as we age, so we can make it more accurate, because this is what life is about. This is the beauty of life. This is the beauty of this opportunity. We're not going to remember all this petty shit from this morning. This is sad. We don't want to understand it too late. We want to wake up with every day with an alarm clock that reminds us this. And to have multiple alarm clocks throughout the day reminding us this. And good people that we surround ourselves with, our teachers, our students, fellow practitioners, that are all reminders of that.
So you're pointing to quality, no? Because you can live a life, whatever, and just pass through life, or live a quality life. And that quality, in my personal experience, is nothing to do, or very few to do, with the tangible things.
The what?
I always said to him and clients and many people in the podcast that if you want to be big, if you want to do big things in life, or even feel that quality, pay attention how you drink your first coffee in the morning, or how you serve the coffee to your wife, to your friend. You know, how you feel. Or you are thinking about the next thing. You are thinking about how you look. You are thinking about your narrative, because when I was young, my father, I have that trauma, I have that gift, I have this. This is a red car, this is a green car, a better car, a new car. This thing is inside us, but if you get enamorado,
if you fall in love,
in love with that, you're just nothing. You're just there. Get the new iPhone, get the new iPhone, get the new iPhone, iPhone 21, iPhone 22, iPhone 23.
And here's the funny thing, you are nothing. But in that way, you remain a nothing. So in that sense, you don't realize your nothingness, and you put the value on those things that are truly nothing, illusions of having things, including the illusion of having ourselves. When that is examined, it falls apart, it disintegrates. So you cannot develop anything. The moment you realize that you are nothing, that you're not in possession of something, then you can develop it. Because what you don't have, you might still find. But what you think you have, you will never find.
That's a good one.
So that is one of the important beginning points of seeing I have nothing. I am all talk. This whole thing is not where my real self is at or my value is at. And those who do a lot have an easier time to see. For example, I became financially independent very quickly, and I became physically capable of many skills, and I was capable with the opposite sex. So all those things, it starts to knock out, oh, it's not about that. Oh, it's not about that. Oh, it's not about that. Another dollar, another girlfriend, another, sexual conquest, another skill. I can do a one-arm handstand. Oh, I can do that. I can do this. I can fly. I can do that. I can crawl. I can juggle these balls. I can do this. I can play this. And now what? And now what? So you start to move somewhere else. Unfortunately, those who don't succeed are in the rat race because they are under the impression, but once I will get it, it will be different, and it won't. And sometimes those who succeed, from some reason, I'm not sure why, don't get it as well. And they continue to do that. For example, I view it as a curse to have more than $10 million. Anywhere more than that, pragmatically, is a pain in the ass. It ties you down. It creates a million fears and problems and difficulties to protect your fortune and to do this and to do that. Who are these people who keep going for it? It's not clear to me. I understand coming up there, but I don't. So, but again, this is obviously the case because people don't have a practice, and I guess they replace it with all these meaningless conquests.
It's I had as I told you before, I had 2 sudden death experiences in my life, and after my contact with that experience, the relationship I had with the tangible changed drastically. It doesn't mean that I don't want to have a good life or an abundant life, but I see it from a place of not chasing, as you say, like a place of more trust. What I brought as a way of abundance is the trust that whatever it has to be, it is and will be. And I just need to be aware. When I'm asked, like in the last interview that I had, they were asking me what. I don't really like the word awakening, but they were asking what awakening means for you, And I said, awakening for me, what do you do in the morning when you wake up? You just open your eyes, right? And you look. It's about looking. It's about looking with observation and attention, awareness, what you said. But here, I want to bring a concept that I think Krishnamurti said, which is when you tell a kid the name of a bird, the kid stops seeing the bird, because then we have a concept. And for me, now I followed a lot Emma Pickler or other people's work in terms of how kids move, how children move naturally through intuition. But when we try to bring those concepts together with the word awareness, for me something is, and I want to ask you this, how dangerous it is, the word awareness, if we link it too much to the word mental or the mind, because we tend to, as Uri and you said, we tend to believe what we think, and it's a dangerous thing, and the mind can be a very dangerous or quite an enemy for ourselves. That's why probably you bring it to the body, because the body doesn't lie. How can we be aware without relying too much in our brains, especially when the narrative is still not on point?
You are pointing at beautiful things and very powerful things, and we are hitting the nail on the head with this, because awareness and spirituality became it's a bunch of wankers wanking around. Blah, 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 blah. In the sense of like these spiritual teachers, etc. They're just masters of words. But when the body is perceived, for me it's very clear, there is nothing here. There is nothing here. There is very little awareness here. Awareness is like, if you reach over and place your hand here, is this.
Yeah.
Is that you're simply experiencing these things and receiving them. It's an open window from which the view can come in, the wind can come in. And how can we develop it? Very simple. By opening the window and by opening ourselves. I don't want to say paying attention, because attention is not enough in that sense. Attention comes, goes. The way that I am now perceiving this scenario here, I'm using my cones of attention, but there is something else that is receiving, not in the way that I think I am receiving, with my discursive mind that tells me, now I'm watching your right eye, now I'm doing this, now I'm doing that. That is just one cone, but there is a much bigger screen. For example, where do I appear now for you guys? Where am I appearing now? Where do you see me? Take a moment. Where am I? Where is that theater in which now my image appears? Pay attention to my voice. Where does my voice appear in your theater? Pay attention to the sensation of your right palm. Where does that appear? Where is that theater? Now we are in awareness. Now we are starting to actually pay attention, but more than pay attention, receive. And we need practices that make this not only possible, but probable. And we need to move away from things which takes it away from us, which is more the problem than anything else. Because when you walk in the jungle, this is how you are. You are not moving your eyes between leaves. You are not jumping like we're jumping between commercials or written words on the streets or people. You are in a different peripheral state, open state, perceiving. So we need practices. So going to nature and paying attention is nice, but what will people do when they go there? They'll start to blah, 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 blah again, to comment about what is going on. So we need practices that make it probable that they will not be able to do that. And such practices, I have hundreds. And such practices I formulate and I bring to people's lives officially, so they can also apply it unofficially to the rest of the time. I practice many, many hours a day, officially. 10, 12 hours a day. In the days that I can. Which are most days. But then people ask me, why you practice so much? I said, because I'm aspiring for 24 hours a day. It has to be a continuous action throughout even your sleep. As many traditions know. You have practices also in sleep, in dream, etc. Until our presence is continuous. And then I can say, I am in life. Or in the sense, I am awake. Not as that awakening, which as you, I don't like, in the sense that not asleep. So that requires a lot of things. Yeah, you might sit in a cross-legged position and observe the breath, and if you'll do it enough, the magic will happen. This is one practice, but it's just one practice. For me, it is a very important practice. It's something that I practiced a lot for many, many years and still do, but it is just one practice, and it will create also a certain flavor of application, which I don't want just that flavor. I want all flavors, because I want it continuous, 24/7. I don't want to sit in meditation. I want to live in meditation in that sense, which is basic, right? Who wants to sit and watch the breath? Oh, I want to do that. Nobody, everybody wants something from it, but they tend to forget, because you know what? After all the hell of sitting and watching your breath, eventually you fall in love with it. That's a dangerous moment, actually.
It's very interesting because this might be a lot of people listening to it and saying, like us, right? We are parents, we have a family. As you say, you can give yourself to the practice fully. We can all give ourselves to the practice. I'm not saying it's an excuse to have a family or have kids. But one thing that I realized, and we mentioned when we were having a coffee, is that you said that there's a key in all of these, which is stay. And the word stay is something that nowadays doesn't exist at all. And I have a lot of conflict with that, because the more trouble, conflict I had in my relationship, for example, the more I saw I had to stay, because that conflict was part of my responsibility as well. We tend to, I always say a sentence that when there's one finger pointing out, there's three pointing at you, which means like you have to look much more inside than outside. And for example, just to give an example, I took my relationship as my practice. Because
it is,
and we can take projects, which is something very beautiful, because you contain the practice in a project.
Correct.
And it makes it more tangible, more functional,
especially like systems.
Yeah, systems, especially.
That's what we call the official practice.
Yeah,
because it's official. It's like, okay, here is a practice, and then there are the things which are not official, right?
100%.
Yeah. But a lot of people might be lost in the practice concept, and I think it's a good approach that we bring, that you can take parts of your life and make it a practice and observe.
100%.
And then allow yourself to get out of the practice, to be able to see what's being in the practice and out of the practice, because someday, suddenly, life starts giving you signals everywhere, and you start reading the signals, and you start reading what your narrative is telling, and you start reading the holography that you create, and you start seeing the lies that you're telling to yourself, and you know.
Yeah, let me give you something with that, which is a little bit of a warning with that. So this is what people tend to do when they hear this message. Like, people maybe come to a workshop or hear a podcast or do something and say, "Oh, I got it. I'm going to apply it in my life." And then something occurs. You actually go back to the same place. Because you're under the impression that you have a practice. And again, you fell out of the boat. You are looking for the practice in the way that it is convenient to you to think and conceptualize. But maybe for you, the real transformation that need to occur in this life to take you to the next level, which in most cases will not occur for a person of your, maybe let's say, it can happen through doing classical ballet for 2 years. In your life, you might never do this. Like our fathers and mothers, they will die without that key in many cases. So the practice is not what, that's why people all the time, they don't know who they meet, where they meet, what they met in that place of like the concept. Oh, I think I know. I don't know. Oh, wow. This is the first day in the end of my life. But I see this reaction very rarely. And for me, this was a critical moment. Because until that moment, and I was sure I'm practicing. And I'm still questioning that. I'm still questioning. I don't call the shots of my practice. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to employ it in your life in all these opportunistic ways. But we have to, parallel to it, study it. It's not like we can take some advice of someone from a podcast and then apply it, giving therapy to people.
Yeah.
You know, like we need to enter a practice. And in 10 years of trying to apply it with ourselves, we might be able to teach it. And we're living in a reality where everybody doesn't want to stay, doesn't want to do the work. And then they keep on saying, yeah, I went to a workshop once of that. I read this book once. Yeah, and you have nothing. In the sense that it's clear to see, like, you've wasted another 15 years after that workshop doing nothing. Now you have to go back to square one. And maybe you can't, because you already know and feel, I've wasted most of my time. Even one day before my death, I would like to have that awareness. I would like to have that awareness. I have wasted my life away. I can now have 1 minute of practice. That would be beautiful. And then to die. Then to not have this realization. And it is something that I want to cultivate in myself, this constant investigation. I do not want to live in the certainty. I do not live from a place of that stability. I'm applying my practice in my life, and you do it in your way, and you do it in your way. I don't want to be another guy like that. I don't want to be another person like that. So this is a lot wider and a lot more scarier than we think. Because if it doesn't threaten everything that you know and have, it's not a practice.
Okay.
All these illusions are taken away from you. And again, the good news is it's their illusions. That your wife and you, in a bad moment, you speak through lawyers. It can flip like this. This is the love that we have for each other. Even with the best intentions, it can be. And then from that place, I'm supposed to love my children? So I think, no, there I have something. For example, a mother receives something from nature more than the father in many ways, also supported with pretty substantial amount of research, that even in case all goes wrong with her, she receives this hormonal output and this power to be there, to love, to care. But it's up to the mother to transmit it to deeper things. And then a father has the pathway from the beginning. What happens when my son is born or my daughter is born? And I watch them and I don't feel love in my heart. If you're not a practitioner, you are in the shit. And this happens all the time. not communicated honestly, but it is all the time there. So the practice has that scare, but also has that gift. It frees you and it gives you something. You are becoming something else. People wouldn't know if it hits them on the head. When they met figures of real practice, we have either ignored them, demonized them, put them in jail many times, or placed them next to someone who is totally a wanker of wankers and confuse the two elements. You mentioned Krishnamurti. There is a nice clip of Krishnamurti having a conversation with Chogyam Trungpa. And Krishnamurti, for I don't know how many, 40 minutes, goes off, with that skillful mouth. And Trungpa, most of the time, is just silent. Maybe he says a few sentences. For me, the true master there is clearly Chogyam. And in that quality, but, is considered, unethical in many ways. Well, we couldn't understand. We are relying on ethics not of practitioners. We are relying on ethics that we constructed because we are not practitioners. We have lost the compass, conscious. So we replaced it with ethics. Don't do this, don't do that. We tell our children, don't lie. Okay. What is it worth if I make you my slave? If I tell you, don't lie, you will always be a liar, in a way. But if I tell you, everyone lies, son, lies are the cement that builds society. I cannot even pass a day without lying. And it's everywhere. But you have to be responsible for it. This is something else. This is a different education. We don't receive this, but we can become the change.
You said the word, I think, responsibility is the word. Because no matter the action you take, the way you take, the form you take, is about taking responsibility for what you've decided. And that's something that I quote a lot of Eric Fromm about freedom and the relationship. He said that we as humans, as soon as we all want freedom, but as soon as we feel it, we give it away. Because it's too uncomfortable, because we don't want to take responsibility. And the other day I was making a talk about everybody wants to quit the 9-to-5 job. But you know how fucking difficult it is to be your own boss and be responsible for your own life when nobody else is telling you what to do when and at what time? That's another game that we're not ready to take.
Yeah. Or having a marriage certificate hold us together, or having no certificate and waking up every day, turning the head to the right, turning the head to the left, and choosing again. It can end any moment. This is the truth. Mm-hmm. I can die today on the street. You can go to work and not come back anymore. Or I can enter an elevator and have a sniff of a perfume, and I find myself in a different bed. And yet, with this reality, I look at it in the eye to eye, and I choose.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's powerful. It's something that I like the fact that we took ethics as a way to, do you think it's the same happens with values? Like, for example, when we as men, we are like, okay, because we try to find shortcuts, right? To understand all of this mess, this chaos. And we're like, okay, for me, the answer right now in my life is to stay in my values, okay? Honesty, I want to be a respectful man, I want to be this. And I don't want to get out of there. What is your point on that way when we limit the being into a frame of values, for example, and principles?
Good question, and you're climbing up some kind of a ladder, but maybe this ladder doesn't go up, maybe it goes to the sides, or so on the level of the ethics, it's here. It's really, we had to write it down and we have to enforce it for it to work, which actually makes it pretty useless. Mostly it's useful, it comes from religion, to control large populations. But what we've lost is the personal thing that arises above it, morality, and above that would be conscious, which even animals have, much more than us. We've lost that. Like a lioness would go out hunting and would leave her cub with another lioness. And that lioness will not eat that cub. And they don't have the same discursive mind that can perceive ethics. Yet it is arising from a deep, emotional, encapsulated conscious. What are emotions? Capsules of desired behaviors. How did nature make sure that the bird builds the nest? If you look at the bird's brain, this complexity is not coming from how we build iPhones. It comes from emotions of nurture, that are facilitating very complex behaviors. What was below emotions then? Facilitating behaviors. What is below that?
Facilitating behaviors below emotions.
Reflexes.
Reactions.
But it's not complex enough.
Yeah.
I cannot build the nest by reacting. So I need something more complex. Emotion. And then above emotion came reason. Intellectual thing. Now, we've abandoned the body, the reflexive systems, the reactions. We've abandoned the emotional side. We have less access to it. It became distorted. It has a very specific flavor and taste. Most of the emotions that people have are a fraction of the spectrum of emotions that you can perceive in traditional cultures. We have many more words, many more ideas, technologies, but actually emotionally we are a lot more limited. This is anger, this is here, this is here. Most of the emotions are negative. We don't experience a lot of positive emotions, most people. And if they experience them, they're extremely of low volume. For example, try to see where you feel sometimes gratitude from someone. Like this weekend, 60 people came to thank me. But how many times did I feel out of those 60 real gratitude? Very few. Sometimes no one. To say thank you is easy. That's ethics. Say thank you. They told us as kids, and we tell our kids, hey, you didn't say thank you. By saying that, we take the opportunity to develop gratitude. Did you say thank you? No. Thank you.
Yeah.
Robot.
Nothing.
You made that child a slave, and they made us slaves first. So we only know how to make slaves. Do you understand how radical this thinking is? How radical this idea is? That's what I mean when I say people don't understand what they met, who they met. In the sense that this is a transformative, we don't even know how to practice, we only know how to live in that way. When we meet the practice, we think, my life is almost there. I'm going to just change this, and that. No, it takes a radical transformation. I don't know how to be a parent. I know how to train robots as I was trained. And I don't have much. I realize, I don't know what I can give. I don't know what I can give my kids. I don't know what I can give my wife. I don't love my mother the way that she deserved to be loved. And I view it. I want that person deserves my love. So I practice. So I might offer it better, a little bit more. We talked about relationship, etc. And I want someone to love me. You know? I don't even love myself. How can I ask someone to love me?
You want the input from outside
to
transform you.
Yeah.
It's that mentality.
I don't even deeply, when you examine it, it's like, I don't even love myself. And I hope you're there. I hope you're not. Under the romantic notions and that hippie talks like, I love myself. There is a huge problem that we love ourselves in all the wrong ways. We call it self-love. And we don't love ourselves in all the right ways. What we love is not important and it's not us. It comes from somewhere else. We've stolen it, copied it, took it. Like this face. Oh, I wanted ice cream. As kids, we learn to do this face to receive us. This is not our real sadness. We are just a bunch of robots, mimickers, machines in this sense. But there is an opportunity. There is a beauty. There is a possibility to do something, but that possibility will be pursued by very, very few. By very few who are ready to let go of this. And it's hard.
I cannot retain it in English.
I will write it.
You cannot retain it.
I will write it down.
Please. In your experience, to be more pragmatic, not talking about my experience or whatever, in your experience of practice, you're talking about emotions. I like to be aware about how this machine works. High technology machine, not this.
The highest.
Yes,
The highest, yeah.
Incredible. And I realize some kind of pathways with emotions. I want to ask you, when you feel the emotions, you feel that you have certain capacity to choose how to do it with these emotions, maybe observe them, and they came and they go, maybe to take it and represent it, and no, now it's time to. You feel that freedom? Or how is your relationship with that human thing that we're calling emotion, more complex than just reaction, nervous system?
Emotions are information. If you become, if these emotions are less present, you have an issue. You are missing information because they're supposed to facilitate behavior, letting you know, hey, there is this thing happening here. I feel gratitude. Hey, there is this thing happening here. I don't like that. Yeah. I'm agitated. This is where emotions are. And of course, when you understand and when you practice, again, to talk about it, to listen to it here is absolutely nothing. And I can say it again and again and again because that is the crucial component nowadays. But to practice it, for example, I go to boxing practice. I'm not a boxer. I don't want to hit anyone. I don't want to defeat anyone. For me, and I've been doing boxing for over a decade, for me it was a very emotional practice. And so I go there with a very clear intention. I go into a gym, a boxing gym, and spar and play, do partner work and with students. I have a very clear intention. They think I'm just boxing. No, I'm practicing. Every time I'm hit, I feel these things happening inside of me, and I modulate. This is a practice. Bring me a monk, little tap on the face, you might discover that there is nothing there. There are different monks, those who practice, but many don't. It's never applied. And I sometimes like to expose it because nobody's exposing it often. So I do it sometimes. I had an opportunity. I talked about it a lot in various podcasts where there came a guy, he is a very advanced meditator in his late 60s. He was a prodigy in many different monasteries and traditions, Christian traditions and Buddhist traditions, and he's clearly a person with a stability of emotions. And he did an event with us, a long event, a week. And every physical task, he totally sucked. So he couldn't do it, but emotionally, he was very stable. It didn't matter. And he offered me as a gift to give me a session of meditation after. And he led me and Odelia in a session of meditation, and all the session was about excess concentration, locking with the object of observation, being able to lock with what you are observing and following it. In this case, the breath he used. And there was all this talk about excess concentration and locking. The next day, I took one of those sticks that we practice with. Maybe you've seen a short stick. Yeah. And I told him, let's balance it on the finger and try to hold it for 1 minute. And it's pretty easy. Most people can do it. So he balanced it for 1 minute. And then I said, you did it for 1 minute. Did you feel a muscular fatigue? He said, no. I said, let's do it now for an hour. Don't drop it. Lock. Excess concentration. I did it for an hour. He dropped it dozens of times. Dozens of times. The point is this, is a very accurate point. Was there a muscular fatigue? No. He was able to do it for a minute? Yes. What prevents him he didn't even pass 5 minutes. 2 minutes he didn't pass. This is a lie. This is not excess concentration. And these people, all what you know is not it. There is not the skill we're talking about. And we need to be careful because we will also become that if we're not already that. The real skill is a skill that can be applied anywhere. Even in a poor level, it's better than the skill that is very deep in a very narrow scenario. Why? Because the skill that I can do very little everywhere is me. And the skill that I can do deeply only somewhere is technique. It's not me. It's a coat I put on. Tricks. So emotionally, physically, mentally, what we are looking for is the Renaissance man. The man who can do the person. Man is not the word, but as the original word, man. Whatever I need to do, I need to conduct a conversation with the President of the United States. No problem. I need to talk to a beggar, a homeless person on the street. No problem. Do I need to cook a meal? Do I need to fight a war? Do I need to play a musical instrument? Do I need to change diapers? Do I need to care for my dying father? Whatever I need to do, I will do it with mistakes. I will do it not the best. I will not be nothing impressive even. That's why I say people don't even know what they met because they're looking to be impressed. If I'll do a one-arm handstand, they will say, wow. But when I'll do something that is really wow, they don't even notice.
They don't see it.
They don't even notice. You gave me some compliments this morning, which are unique already, which are very unique. That's why I told you, very perceptive, etc. We don't know when a cat moves around us. When a ninja moves around you and we don't even recognize it, but you recognize a cauliflower ears or a big or a big body. Well, I come from there, so I can play that game. Obviously, I've moved beyond it. There is something else that I was looking for because it did not serve me anymore. It was a lie in a way. Now, don't let me demonize sitting in meditation and watching my breath. I do that a lot, but I also balance the stick and I also do it in all these different ways, which increases the chances of me developing something real. So the first question is, who is actually practicing and who is not? Because it's not about doing it well. It's about actually testing yourself first in a way that verifies to you, I can do it. I will go out into a hard hike to test myself. I will take away things for myself. I will fast. When I'm fasted and agitated, I will go into a situation that I need to maintain my calmness in. I will practice physically when I'm extremely tired, or practice emotionally when I'm extremely high energy and need stability. My teacher told me once a story. He's a yogi. His name is Dudi. And he told me a story about his teacher that once conducted a workshop it was in the 90s. And the yogis came to this workshop to study from him. He's a master, unique teacher. And in the first day, he opens the workshop and there is an espresso machine on the table. And he says, everybody drinks triple espressos. Now we sit and we practice. Okay, these people haven't drank anything beyond green tea, in years. Okay, that was the first day. The second day, he brings a plate of steaks, ribeye. They grill them, eat it for breakfast. Now we practice. Vegans for years, yogis.
Wow.
The next day, for me, this represents you have met a practitioner. You have met a teacher who is actually interested in something real. He wants to give you something real. But would the vegan do it? 1 or 2 people left. And maybe that was the right thing for them to do in that specific moment. This touches something. Thank you for the opportunity and your openness, in the sense that this weekend you gave me something by coming there and practicing so hard physically and listening to the messages. And this makes this conversation a lot more real for me and a lot more important, and that would also reflect for the people there. Because if you didn't do it, as most of the time, the cases, everybody has more excuses than a pregnant nun not to come to the workshop, right? Not to come to an event. Because that's the time to practice. That's the time. And from here, where am I going to go? To practice again.
Yeah, because I also I link it to one question that I wanted to make. It's 3 questions in one, but we create lots of armors, okay, and roles. We play lots of roles. And when you go to a workshop like this, because we all somehow, we move in life from the I know kind of. That's what they told us, right? I remember my father telling me as a kid, if you know just 1% more than the person you have in front, you can make it look like 80% more. And that's
very true.
That's very true. But that can also be used as a self-manipulation to bring you to a place of non-growth.
So, you want water?
I will, yes.
Okay. Can you give a...
And I've been, as a kid... there you go. Thank you, Anna. As a kid, I was very not obsessed. I don't like the word obsessed, but I wanted to be a Renaissance guy. I wanted to be a good poet. I wanted to be a good writer, a good mover, a good lover. I tried to touch everything. But at some point, when you enter society from that place, because you need a lot of sensitivity for that, and you need to open a lot for that. But when you open that way, as a kid, sometimes you need to close again because you feel too. That's what happened to me. Okay, and I needed to be very honest with myself in this practice of life. And for example, we were talking this morning that thanks to my wife, she's here. She came to see us, and we were talking about just a daily thing, like a situation with your partner can be a part of the practice to work in honesty, for example. Am I being honest with myself? And I realized this morning after a talk we had last night, right? I woke up and I said, I'm sorry, I couldn't see that part. I wasn't being honest with myself. And I think I have to say it, because only through that dropping the armor, I can enter a space of growth, right? Like a lobster that needs to get rid of that to expand.
The apology is very important, the moment of apology. But it can also become a slippery slope, right?
Yes.
Because if we keep it in mind, we can always apologize. It's very important that we apologize a lot at a certain period of time especially. And then we have to grow very careful. I don't want to apologize too many times. Has to be there.
It was more an apology for myself.
Yeah, it's always for yourself.
It's for myself.
That's why there is never an honest apology as well. Because it's always for yourself. But it's still important to do it, because it basically tells me this. Me and you is more than me here. I'm not conducting myself from me here. I'm a little nothing. I am making a pact with you, little nothing, that together we are aspiring for something else. I don't need a better partner. We've had sex for 20 years. It's going to be similar with any other person. I don't need someone with the perfect character. I just need someone to practice. But this is a scary thought. And you know what? It's rare to find someone who makes this pact with you. And when you have it, it's beautiful. Yeah. It's gold. And you then transmit it by diffusion to your kids. And you don't need to even take care of it, because daddy and mommy were practitioners. They were apologizing, making mistakes, and we had all these experiences, and you grow within that state of mind. And you see the rest of the world as very different.
I have a sentence that I like to say, I don't want to be a teacher, I want to be an example. I want to be a reference, because in the end, as parents, we need to let go of that control, because he will always take his own way, and he has to take his own way.
I say it even I think in a better way, somewhat.
Tell me.
I don't want to be a teacher, I want to be the teaching. And the example appears as a natural side effect of the teaching. But it's not about the example. And you meant exactly this. So maybe even more on the point. The teacher becomes the teaching. That's the highest level of instruction. You carry it with you in your example, in your way of doing and being. This is parenting, not parenting in that sense. Your mother, father, parents are actually there, the teaching. Children don't listen to us, as we know, but they are observing every little thing, absorbing every little thing, little facial features, tone of voice, way of sitting after you finish the meal and you're full and you sag and you become a bit mindless. It's there. It's all the time perceived. So it's powerful when you are realizing it, and almost like it's a wake-up call. It's an alarm clock to have children, to have a family. Don't change it.
Yeah.
So just like for me, I didn't need to construct a family. The same way, if I had a family, I wouldn't have changed it. But the understanding of that, I don't need to change my wife. I don't need to change my friends. Yeah, but this guy is really shitty, and I'm also shitty in other ways. So something starts to flourish. Everything heals itself, and somehow the whole thing comes together. Instead of trying to correct this, these are negotiations. They don't go anywhere. It's like our political negotiations, Russia, Ukraine. Yeah, see how far that would go. Israel, Palestine, everywhere, the same shit. Yeah. We are not moving beyond it. David Bohm talked about dialogue. That is what he tried to leave us here, something else.
And how you deal with your own armors and roles, because when I understand that every time we expand, and especially when you take a place of teacher, I had a little bit of conflict in the yogic world sometimes when I could see those altars with people there, because I don't like to put actual people on altars. But how you deal with your own altar, because somehow you've been in different altars through the movement culture, working with people, very famous people like Conor McGregor. People know you from different things like that. How you dealt with that, and how could you navigate the armors and the roles?
Well, I just break my balls. I fart. You get into a good relationship. Yeah, that's fart. A good advice, right?
We always say that.
Yeah.
Fart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
So this, in that sense, like, look at my face. Like, that's my face. I've been in the sun all my life. This is my white hair. I'm missing 3 teeth in my mouth because I had dental surgery, 10 days ago. My shirt has stains. I can afford a shirt. But I make it a point not to mind too much those things, not in a sadomasochistic way. It's just, this is the way that my face is, and I'm not going to inject Botox into it. Not because there is something wrong with Botox, because for me, it decreases certain opportunity for me to practice. I am aging. This is how it looks. I've been in the sun all my life. This is how it looks. That takes the armor down. I'm constantly putting myself out there. People present me in podcasts like this, many times, the biggest expert of movement in the world. And I say it to their face. And if I am, what do you know about it? What do you know about it? You wouldn't know the expert if it hit you on the head. Because you need to be an expert to know the expert. So, thankfully, you didn't present me that way.
No.
People don't know. This is the biggest doctor, in the world. What do you know about it? Maybe the biggest doctor is a guy that you don't even mind. You need to be very, very... So, this is what I see. I was in the NBA working with people, NFL, tennis players. I work with cinema. I do movement design for movies. I work for government bodies. I do podcasts, the biggest podcasts out there I've done. And what do I see? I see this kind of a pact. I lift to you, you lift for me. I come here, you present me as an expert, I bring back, I do. And thankfully here, we didn't play this. With your honesty, with your down-to-earth, something that is also, somewhat also Spanish, a good side of the Spanish thing. That there is something also very simple, very down-to-earth, where in certain aspects in Europe, you don't get to see that. You see a lot more pumptuous things and...
We like farting a lot.
Yeah, great. Like we're human beings. There's a hole there, air comes out. Like in that sense of like we put too much into that, and now it's hiding the forest from the trees. So that is how I work with the armor. I sometimes really on purpose, like I come in with a stain on my shirt because I pull the shirt and then I realize there is a stain. And then Odelia tells me like, you have a stain on your shirt. I say, yeah, I leave it. Or, I don't cut my nose hair. As little actions for myself to check myself. Or I tell people things which are harsh. Like in this weekend, it's harsh. Or here, even what we're talking, it's harsh. But it's the honest truth, and I want to bring it to light. And you know what? I trust you guys. You are not made of sugar. So I can do that without damaging anyone, with the best intention. But it's going to be uncomfortable. You better believe it's going to be uncomfortable. So that is a beautiful question that
Thank you.
I was never asked, and so important. And this is just some of the ways that I approach it with myself.
And I think you have a very beautiful connection also. You make a beautiful balance with Odelia in the workshop. She applies, in the morning you were giving your part, she was giving her part in the afternoon, and then you were joining everything as a closure. I think it's a very nice way. How you deal, you are a man of temper. You're a man with a lot of character, which I believe that, I don't know if you choose to have that character or it comes naturally from you, which is something I would like to navigate, and how that feminine energy that balances the whole thing helped you move through this project, because in the end it's your life project, this whole thing. And you chose Odelia. You said it's the only person that stayed with you throughout the 20 years she's been with you.
Yeah.
Right? And explain us a little bit about that temper that you carry. What, if you choose so, if you are that way, and how you balance it with that feminine energy and even your feminine energy inside, because I think it's very important to talk about that inner balance that we all carry.
Yeah, great. It's very, very important. First, that temper, that is potency, really. That is what it is. Like, that's the side of, like, rage is a beautiful thing. Rage is a very productive thing. Anger. But we've made it into something else. Agitation. This is really, something like a little stomach ache.
Like dirty.
And grumpiness.
Yeah.
And rage is potency. It creates, it does. Now, for many years, I had to even not allow that to come out. So you could have met me in certain years where I was working on certain aspects of myself where I said, this is not. Like yesterday with Danny and Anna, there was a moment of situation where the lion came out. Not anything that you would have realized, but they realized because I directed it, and then within 5 seconds, it's gone. It's back into the cage. Not in any harmful way. I didn't injure anyone in my words. I did not curse. I did not even frown my face. But they felt something. And Anna, for example, she couldn't sleep afterwards. She said this morning, and I said, great. And she cried this morning, and we talked about it, and there was an evolution, there was a change. Here is the potency. And this is something that I view is, I don't think it would be wise to take away such a tool, but I don't want to be a slave to that tool. About the feminine energy that Odelia brings, and I also had to meet within myself in all these ways. This is also very potent and impressive energy. It's like a contraction of a muscle. If all you can do is contract, you have no capacity to move. You have to be able to relax very, very well, release that. Now, how much do we practice that? We practice how quickly can you contract. Yeah. But when was the last time somebody measured how quickly you can let go of the... This is part of my practice, a lot. As balanced as it is, so you meet a lot of feminine energy. So the way that I move, in many ways, I try to bring these two places, these two sides, and bring the equanimity, the equanimous point in between them. And also, if you saw, I bring that temper, and then immediately after, I soften something. But I don't want the workshop to be devoid of these highs and lows and emotions. And I also don't want my life to be devoid of that. There is a peace inside of me when I'm in that rage. There is a peace inside of me when I'm not. It is not driving me. I see it. Here it is. Here is the moment. And then, whoop, back. This is something that I had role models of. My teachers and many people I admired, and I saw that is the real deal. Not some kind of a super mellow, we are spiritual here. And this is a numbing. Yeah. This is a numbing. You have lost your potency. And this is not how we can go through life. And it's not even an equanimous point, because it's a person who is afraid of something. He has to all the time maintain
the consequences.
The consequence.
Yeah.
And here, for example, when I put that rage, that moment of rage, in the way that it is, it's just the emotion. Even the words did not change from other words much. But there was the way of saying it that immediately everything stopped. And they both went into this place because they care about me. And then everything came down, and I wasn't afraid that I'm going to damage them, but I had the certainty that it will touch. So it's useful. The same thing with your kid. Case in point, recently, a student told me a story. He's sitting in a car in a crossroad, and he sees a kid coming downhill with a bike, and he sees the other car is about to hit the kid. And he sits in the car watching it from the front. And then inside the car, he's inside the car, he's far away from the kid, he just stopped. And the kid looks at him and stopped and looked like this to the side. What was it? This potency, the intention that can move mountains, because he felt, that's it, here it is. He's not a superhero. He's just a human being. But that moment he felt that intention. Stop.
Yeah, the same way you didn't need to raise your voice to make them feel that there was some anger there. We don't need to. The energy itself can talk for us, right? One thing that
and if you in the workshop, it's obvious.
I'm going to do something because, sorry, just quickly. I'm going to go to the toilet, not being afraid of Ido's reaction, okay? And I'm going to...
Go ahead.
I'm going to leave you here making the question, and I'm coming back in a minute.
Okay.
And we don't stop the record.
I see it. Yeah, this is great.
We
I
like
love
to
this.
act like that.
Yeah,
we
do
don't
you
have guidelines or something like that. We create the moment and we take the opportunity with the person.
This is so beautiful. This is like when I was working on stage. That was the first thing. It's like, why are you walking like this? You're walking on stage, you know.
Yeah.
I'm a dancer. It's like just a human being, and then dance. You know what I mean? You walk into a coffee shop. Why are you walking like this? What's going? I entered the coffee shop. So just bring me a cup of water. Yeah, this is recorded on a camera. This is a studio. There is lights here. We're human beings. We're talking. I appreciate it. Again, it's this armor question of doing things in the simplest way, in the honest way.
So in the line of what Omers is talking about, I would like to talk about limits. I wrote it right here because my father gave me a lot of good things, most of good things, good fathers in my experience. As you know, Jaya, also my mother. So very glad to have this experience. But there is clearly, and my father is working on it right now because he knows and I know that he has some pain in joints from that kind of character. So my parents didn't have the capacity to transmit me this power to make boundaries, and also with the money. So all other things.
By the way, me as well.
Okay.
I'm pretty similar.
Okay.
Actually, funny enough. So I didn't receive many boundaries, do this, don't do that. I was never laid a hand on, never even received a flap from anyone. And I could do anything that I wanted. It has many advantages and many disadvantages. So I'm feeling like you. Please keep going.
Thank you for the intervention. So same, Omar, very interesting. Same upbringing about parents. Her parents are also soft and not very rigid.
Like your family.
Yes.
Okay.
I was talking about him,
nice.
about in my life, know how to put limits and have that lion puts a limit. It helped me a lot with the business and with my relationships. And in the workshop,
the limits are not necessarily the lion. The limits are the facilitation of the boundaries of the playground. Mm-hmm. As we said in the workshop, I put myself in the shackles, in prison, so I can become free. So, but then the lion can also relate to it, but it's not directly the lion, you understand? Because sometimes the limits have to be set without the lion. These are the boundaries. And we don't need to add an anger to it. The anger can be a tool to make a point, to transition, and it shouldn't be used for a long period of time until you're sure you're doing it in a clean way, or else you're damaging people, you're abusing people.
But in the workshop, I felt that your power, and you show a little bit of your anger and your power to some people that are not maybe paying attention or are not 100% in the practice.
Correct. And the point is, of course, to give them the gift. Oh, I don't know how to do that, to practice in this way. It's like, maybe now I can develop it. Because if I just said, hey, you didn't do it, it wouldn't work, right? So that was a point. Some people would be insulted by it, but what I discovered is these are not, if I do it correctly, which I haven't done many times, I did it incorrectly, but if I do it correctly, these are probably people that the practice does not choose. And I tell people, you don't choose your practice. The practice chooses you. Keep going, please.
Just that reflection. So I understand that that capacity, it came not from your father or mother. You develop it through life with mentors, with teachers like me. I'm doing.
I don't know exactly. Again, those are all stories I tell. My father is a very powerful man, physically. My father was born in Africa. He's a big guy.
He's African?
Yeah.
He's a black guy?
No.
Okay.
No, but he's dark skin.
Okay.
Darker skin than me. And he was born in Africa and immigrated when he was 13 in north of Africa. And he's a very physical type, very powerful. He was an artist most of his life, and big physically. Yeah, like
big bones?
Every finger of mine, 2 fingers of mine are 1 finger of his.
Wow, so you're more ectomorph.
Yeah, I'm more of a
fiber.
Yeah, you can say ectomorph or mesomorph, but of small stature, like my mom, who is Polish-Lithuanian origin, blue eyes and blonde,
okay.
You know? So it's a mix. So my father actually couldn't, and he comes from 11 brothers and sisters, family. So actually my mother was quickly realizing, you can't lay your hands on the kids. It's not going to work, so actually he was not doing that because she realized, and she was guiding some of those things, but I still received that silent type from my dad and feeling all the time, the lion is inside. It doesn't go out. Maybe my father raised his voice a number of times in my life. He didn't need to, because I realized there is someone here that I respect and that I know he's my father and he's the strongest, as the kids think, I had this feeling, it's my father and he's the strongest, which gave me a good back and confidence and respect to him, but without any need to enforce it. This was a very good balancing with my mother, who has a perfect image for me. She never damaged her image, which is very difficult to have this. For so many years, to not commit the little error. One error, you lose it. It's different. It's already different. One scratch, it's never going to be the same. I had once a student who shared with me something very personal. She walked with her child, who was like 5 years old, with the dog and her child. And the dog was going around, she was with the leash like this, and the kid was like having a tantrum, anger. And in a moment, she just gave her a little flap with the dog leash on the leg. Not like a killer, but a painful one, a little painful one. And immediately, when that hit, she saw in the eyes, I lost her. I lost a child. She saw that face before the cry started.
Wow.
And she was sensitive and honest enough to say what we don't like to say sometimes. What does it mean that she lost a child? Like many of us are lost children, but we don't see it in that way, right? There was something broken. With my mother, this never happened. She had the capacity to realize what's important and what's not. And even in my largest tantrums, and I was a fiery kid, she somehow kept her composure and full love and compassion and everything. But she was smart. She knew I needed to get some smacks. She sent me to martial arts. Now, I got this, but she remains
She's clean. Nice.
What a smart thing to do. So I gravitated towards it. So as I was 6 years old, I started doing the 80s martial arts. Martial arts were different back then. Kung Fu, I remember being kicked by my teacher, who was a 100-kilogram guy, 6 years old. I'm on the floor crying with all my air out of my lungs from being kicked by him. Knuckle push-ups and all this stuff, like being hit with little bamboo sticks when we're doing horse dances. And this is how it was in the 80s. We never felt abused, and we became tough. And then other experiences shaped me, etc. But always with my parents, receiving the back. Receiving here the back. It's us supporting you against whatever you're facing in life. This was a good combination. I still had my own challenges, and everybody has, and rolling with the punches of life and broken hearts as a kid and all these different things that are happening. But this, to complete the story, within the practice of martial arts, etc., I received this side of the strictness, the limitation, the pursuit, the feeling you're fighting someone, you're sparring with someone, and he wants it more than me. My ear, he wants it more than me. I feel I'm weak, I'm the weak one. And as a kid growing with it, and what it makes you strong, because the most they don't experience it. Running, we train for the military, etc. Running, seeing like, I can't, my lungs are burning, and seeing he wants it more than me. And all these things, and working with it, and seeing this is my limitation. Until here I can go, until here I can. So this was a very physical thing. And then in capoeira, oh wow, all these very complex experiences. Capoeira is very unique. You can be a knight on a horse, save a girl. You can be in a movie. Why? People meet on the street. You don't know. You shake hands, you go in, and you communicate with the bodies. Some of the movements are trying to hit you, and you have to move away. Some of the movements are not trying to hit you. Sometimes it's something else. One time I finished a class, and there came a visitor, a girl, who was very advanced practitioner, a student of my teacher. She came to visit us. And she was a beautiful girl. And we had some kind of a sexual attraction, just normal there. And we played a little game. And then in one scenario, I was taking her down and showing her here. And she was very good. And then in one scenario, she was close, slightly glued to me here. And she gave me a little whisper on the ear. And I felt my neck goosebumps, and in that moment, she swept me off my legs. My legs rose this high, and I crashed down with a smile on my face. Before I even hit the floor, I was smiling. She got me. This little moment of playing with something, this can happen in capoeira. In a fight, for example, it wouldn't happen. But there, it can mix. So this was very enriching for me. To see, this is happening here, there is this thing happening here, there is that, or risk or danger, or, having a friend being stabbed in Brazil in a capoeira roda and had to go to the hospital. And this is very enriching thing that capoeiristas deal with when you are traveling capoeiristas, visiting places. Saber entrar, saber sair, they say. You are learning this. How to enter, how to say hello, how to enter a new scenario, here, this studio, how to exit with a good impression. Gifts.
What I realized when I met you is, and it's something that I think we even mentioned, is that even though you have this strong presence, because probably also created by my own perception of who you are inside of me. But when we approached you, or me, when I talk about me, I saw service. I saw a man that would even tilt his head a little bit down in the form of, hey, I'm here if you need something. And I think that's something in society we have lost, because I would like to enter a little bit into masculinity, because we help men navigate that part of getting back into the coherence. And I think I always say a sentence that a man should be as capable and strong to protect as to hug. So we should. It's the same force.
Beautiful.
It's the same force. But you can kick somebody or you can hug somebody, and it can happen with sometimes in daily situations. Those moments when you don't want to hug your partner because you're feeling a conflict inside are the moments that you have to hug the most, because those are the moments that will put you in an uncomfortable situation of being honest with yourself and say, I don't give a shit about this hug right now, but I'm going to go through this because that's the answer. Because I'm not going to kick my wife, I'm going to hug my wife.
Yeah.
And talking about the lion that we all have inside, that it's nowadays more caged than ever, because we are not allowing for terms of what we all know, right? Comparison in society and so on.
But then a few haters.
Yeah. Then there's a lot of people sending you shit. And the other day I even made, there was a reel that I was talking about how I send audios to my haters. And after sending an audio, sometimes they come back to me saying, I'm very sorry for what I said.
Nice.
Because I didn't know that I was just putting on you my vomit instead of my, And what do you think nowadays, how do you see, as I said, we accompany men in this walk of reconnecting to a part of masculinity that we don't even know. I'm not saying that we know anything. I'm just saying that we accompany. How do you see it nowadays? And how you approached it in your own life?
I view the problems that we have as people a lot more like on the base of the pyramid as human beings than the sex orientation, etc. I totally understand that there are flavors and that people construct systems to help orient males or females, but I try really not to put too much faith into it. And in the way that I treat my students, I always did, for example, I will box with my female students all the time, predominantly even sometimes, to make this point and to work with them, or I kick them in the air, I do this, I do that. And I try to facilitate an environment where everybody here are practitioners. Then there are flavors, and you're definitely, I see what you're saying about masculinity and everything. I just choose not to interact with it directly because I view the problem of the base layer, the problems that we've mentioned, are much more basic and relevant. And this takes care of masculinity or femininity.
But even when we were mentioned that fighting with our son, right? What I do every day, I see a lot of parents pretending to fight and letting them win and all that stuff. It's a theater, no?
Yeah.
But I like to take it to, and let me know your opinion.
By the way, let me give you something there.
Okay.
I once read a story, and it's something that I realized my father was doing also with me. My father used to hold me, wrestle with me. And he's a big guy, he's 130 kilos on a good day.
130 kilos?
Wow, that's
he's a big guy. Big guy, likes to eat, thick. So he would hold me. By the way, he is one of the smallest of the brothers there, yeah? There are someone smaller, but it's no less than 100 kilos.
They have for breakfast.
When my father brought my mother, who is a tiny little 50 kilo, 1 meter 50 person, he brought her, my mother, to his mother. She told him she won't be able to bear 2 children. It's like it will break her back, like she's not thick, big woman. My grandmother was. So anyways, I remember him holding me, and I try to escape, and I can't. Mm-hmm. It's too powerful. You know that feeling? Mm-hmm. And I give up. Yeah. And when I soften and I give up, he releases a little bit. And he encourages me again. And he did it without even realizing. Only years after I read some article about it, and I realized, wow, this is practice. This giving up to experience the broken spirit, like I said before. This guy wants it more than me. But then you can want it a little bit more. And to play and to be okay with it. Let me submit you. To be in a space where this can happen. Cultivating that is a culture of practice. I don't think that we mostly have cultures of practice, and hence we don't feel comfortable practicing. I need good people. I meet you guys. Like, I'm always looking for that quality. Like, I need the good people. Without my students, I wouldn't be here. We need a community of good people to be together, because there is not many of us interested in this, that I can break apart, that I can be weak for a moment, that I can be strong after. Sorry, interrupted.
No, it's actually the point I wanted to go, because I see a lot of fear on validation from the outside, and the need of, there's a lot of fear of losing what you have in front by being who you are, and by keeping your position of power. But with my son, and
fake position of power.
It's a fake position, because in the end, when we fight, I make clear that I'm stronger than him, because I'm making him no favor to make him believe that he's stronger than me. And I'm not saying that I'm beating him up. I'm just saying that at some point, if he gets too aggressive, because they can get really uncomfortable to fight with, because you don't expect the next move, and they can go to the balls.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So you gotta be aware of, hey, I push you and you fall on the ground. If you try to go to my balls, boom, you're gonna go to the ground, because there's rules here. But I really like
and he maps the limits. You asked about the limits. You don't enforce the limits. He maps it to himself. But if he's not allowed to brush against you, how can he find his limits? So we need that experience.
And that's, I think, in society, everything is seen like, oh, like a magazine, man, like a beautiful editorial magazine, because we live in this, I need to only show this part of myself. And what we like here, that's why we started this, man. We always say we started this podcast because we were in the shit. We were in the dirt. We were left alone by our family situation. We were like, what can we do, man? Let's share with the world, because in the end, it's a legacy we can do. And just opening raw in front of life, I think, is a practice itself. Everything and I don't know if there's an end to it. I don't know if you see an end in this journey, because this is a never-ending journey. But what is your point on why this? Why we're going into this expansion? What comes after? Have you meditated? Because I guess you have thought about it. What comes next? Like, I've been on the other side. I've seen, the second time I had the death experience, I could see that I was in the same place, but in a different place. And I could see the lights, I could see the energy, but I could see that this doesn't end somehow in this kind of tangible thing. What is your opinion on that? Have you investigated there? To know what's the next step, because I don't know towards where we're going in the self-growth or an expansion.
Yeah, I think certain questions are not important to answer, and even in some cases, they're not important to ask them. They're more important to understand why we shouldn't ask them.
Okay.
That there is only this opportunity to. So, and I like this. First, I can only know something towards my immediate contact. So I can only know something very close to me, which completely goes against the grain of all of those who tell us all the stories from the other side. These stories are usually interpretation of something that is brought back. This is what I saw. The more accurate the description, the less honest it is. I'm not questioning the fact that there was, but I'm questioning how it was constructed, the experience. Of course, we gain authority, we gain certain credibility when we are presenting that we have that. I have my experiences, many of my experiences. I meditating for many years and use substances, and I was in neurofeedback research, very intense things, 15 hours a day, meditations and all kinds of things. And I've done it for 4 decades now, at least 2 decades, somewhat seriously. So, but I view it not as a very potent thing to discuss as in terms of like, that is what is going on here, that is what is going on there. More First, to answer the first part of the question, what is on the other side? Is there a continuation or whatnot? Yes, there is a continuation in the sense that there is no other side. It's again something that we've interpreted. Imagine there is no other side. It's not a side. That's the first thing. Second thing, at the same time that there is continuation but no other side, there is something I refer to as critical mass, phase shift. It means you're not progressing linearly. It's not a continuous linear movement. It moves in steps. You reach a certain critical mass, you transform something in a jump. So both things are correct. It's some kind of another side, but it's not exactly what we think it is. And the same thing in terms of our practice and work. Will this be forever? Yes and no.
Okay.
The practice is always challenging, but there is critical masses where you are now practicing in a different way. There is this phase jumps, shifts, states. We don't know this. We don't communicate this. And we only know our state. We don't know nothing higher than our state. We only recognize lower than our state. Once you meet something higher than your state, you will simply recognize it as something similar, or you might have a little scent of something that might be, if it's close enough. So states of being, we're not talking about it. What state of being are you? We don't have categories for it. We don't have, we're talking about alpha waves in the occipitals and this state and that state and high vibrational, this all blah, 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 blah. Most of the people who are actually talking about have no idea what they're talking about, and you can wet test them to show them that they're not in the higher state, like I talked to you about before. I am the guy with the peeing contest because it keeps me honest with myself first. So I like, can I do this? No, I fail again. And then I see, I haven't changed. And then you can make these phase jumps in relation to the honesty of your practice and your efforts. What are those efforts? Here is another kicker. What we eat is suffering. That is the food of our transformation. Your ability to digest suffering. But what is that suffering? That word is not... It's a conscious choice to engage with challenge. It takes me out of my homeostasis. So it's very good that your wife takes you out of your homeostasis.
It's amazing.
And you should thank her for this opportunity and protect her from yourself, the same as she should cultivate with you. Thank you for taking me out of my homeostasis 10 minutes ago in your way of being. No, I'm just kidding. So this can be an opportunity. When we move into this point, we become together, me and you against me and you. In that sense, we want to let go of that bullshit, me and you, and we together make a pact towards something else. This would be me and Odelia. That is the partnership we have. People ask, what is it? Are you together? Are you not together? Are you this? Everything that you know and more, because this pact is a lot deeper. More than married, more than brothers and sisters at the same time, more than mother and father, more than male and female, because everything comes from the place, me and you, we are together, first and foremost against ourselves.
Wow, that's powerful.
And then growth. Now we wake up every day, practice, immediately into the practice, officially and unofficially. I want to have such friendships. Maybe we develop such a friendship together with us. We have an opportunity to practice. We're not going to develop a friendship around coffee shop meetings. This is not going to be in the cards for me. So I don't have such friendships, but I'm definitely interested in people who honestly want to do something. Then the rest are details, logistics. We'll solve it, we'll make it. This is here we do an event, here we go together and we just meet, here we do this, here we do. This is what is really crucial. As a family cell, you represent that. And when you represent that, it's a nuclear powerhouse to raise and elevate children or otherwise. And when you lead the community, it's a nuclear powerhouse. You affect ripples all over the world because you bring that honesty to light. Your podcast is going to be a nuclear powerhouse of messages, of things. You will be orienting yourself towards this. Everything will unfold. Everything will unfold in the best possible way. This is what I viewed. This is why I place myself as a servant to the practice, not as a master of the practice. Practice is not mine. That's why I refuse to call it by a name. I have a name, but I'm not the owner of the practice. And I'm just trying to cultivate my way of practicing and offer it to people because I have studied this for a while. I think people need that help like I needed. That's it. Not more than that.
You know, there's a sentence that I repeated for many years, which is the good is made in, no, the good happens in silence, the rest is theater. And because I had a lot of problems, this is a therapy for us in a practice because for many reasons, but also for me, exposure, it's something I rejected a lot. I hated social media, I had a lot of anger and judgment. So I went straight there. This man took me straight there. And I remember a few years ago, I was asking him, how can you deal with your personal brand, man? Yeah. How can you deal with that thing on top of you, you know, that slime? Mm-hmm. And I was like, there's an answer there for me. I need to go straight there because it's very uncomfortable. So I'm going to face it, right? And thanks to that facing, we created this, which is a ripple effect that is helping thousands and thousands of people to understand that there's a different way of seeing life and a different way to open as a man and a different way to open as a husband or as a wife, right? And I think it's a very powerful message, man. I really thank you for this approach because it's very much needed nowadays. I think you're bringing also something that society lacks, which is patience. Patience, the patience of staying, as we mentioned before, and the patience of things don't need to happen from one day to another, which
they
is
can't.
what
they
can't. But we are living nowadays as if biology would live under those rules, and it's not true, man. It's we are hurting ourselves actually by accelerating certain processes, no?
Yeah. Just in that point, I have a beautiful question for Ido. It's Ido. It's not Ido. I ask these guys because I want to do it properly. It's Ido. We tend to do Ido.
All good.
Ido. I have two questions. I'm going to wrap it on. It's a nice word. The new one that I take it. I want to never say it again. I'm just like a kid. So I want to wrap it on and because we're talking about things that are great. You as a coach, you raise it the top level. You said, oh, there's NBA, MMA fighters. So my question is very clear. Many coaches dedicate full life and full effort, I think, to work on being a good coach, and never raise that point. How was your journey? How you get the top point to be capable to work with Conor McGregor, for example? And then, as you are saying right now, how do you deal about this necessity to perform of a world athlete that I think may have? Hey, Ido, I need to be the strongest and gain I'm going to pay you a lot of money and like
Poliquin, no?
Like Poliquin said, and you're going to pay it, whatever you need. But the thing had to be done. 2 weeks, man. Let's go. And you are on that philosophy thing.
Because they want results.
Yes.
Right away.
Well, first, I was never a coach, but sometimes they call me coach, but I didn't treat myself as a coach. Coach, trainer, different things. I'm a teacher in that sense. First, I'm a practitioner. Then I share what I practice as a teacher. Teaching, not coaching, not training, something else. Then after I leave, sometimes the trainers use the information, the program that I left for the athlete. People confuse me. I spend with Connor each time, for example, a week of condensed work. Then I leave behind me certain systems and ideas that have to be applied by the trainers. So this is the first thing. And the second thing is, it's all one question really related. You're right about that pressure. More and more time passes, less and less interested I am in working in that way. Because the reason was I was never really interested to work with all these people. NBA, this, cinema, doing this, doing that. I was manipulating it for the real benefit. I'm a servant of the master, and the master sent me, and I'm a big manipulator for that sake. The depth of the message was always about that. But I needed the visibility. So I took my shirt off, so I did a one-arm handstand, so I said things in the way that they needed to be said. So I went there, I did, those podcasts, I do this. And then when they realize what I'm actually doing, sometimes they never invite me again. Wow. Because I refuse to play that game. And the world right now only plays that game. Now, in terms of results, I truly believe this is the way to the ultimate results, even within those sports, even within those scenarios. But it's very rarely understood because of no patience, no staying, and in essence, no complexity. No complexity of understanding. For example, I taught you guys how to do, we talked about arm work. Who's going to actually do that? But you show to people, you expose, you show them, you develop the idea, but it's easier to do something else, and it's quicker, and it's much more easily perceivable. Eventually, all those tools that we're using aim to arm work. Really, that's what they aim, to be able to do this, to locomote is related to this, etc. I am not bound by this because I became free enough to say, this is my price tag, this is what I do, this is the honesty. I don't need to gratify anything or anyone. When somebody pays you $100,000 for a week of work, do with it whatever you want to do. I'm going to take that and I'm going to use it for what I truly value. And if you're smart, I'm going to give you the best tools, the real deal, but you're going to have to move beyond that shallow point. Results tomorrow. Because what we can do tomorrow is we can do very little things, tricks, those stretching demonstrations, right? I put a little needle, Chinese medicine needle in you, and I open a bit the shoulder range of motion. Or I do it with foam rolling, or I do it with temperature, or I do it by heating you, or like Charles used to do by pulling on your ears. And so fucking what? After 4 hours, your hand is back there. And this is not a cake. This is an icing on the cake, which is cool, great to have icing, but this is all that we have because all we perceive is the icing on top. That's what easily presentable on social media, etc. I don't want to be a slave to that. So even if I don't need anymore to make that money, I don't need to do. If you want to listen to the real deal, this is what I found as the real deal for me. Here it is. This is how you really become fast. This is how you really become strong. And I'm not against all those tools, using those tools, weights, like you mentioned. But on purpose, on the event, for example, on the weekend, I focused on other tools. Even though I'm not only using those tools, if you'll come to me for a program, You will be doing split squats and you'll be doing many other things, which are great tools. But always I'll take care of what's important and not to become a slave of the tools. Because as we've shared and showed, maybe even changing the model of how you move is more powerful than all the training you're going to do in your life with the same model. So even just having this little practice of this building and constructing a different model can transform more of you, but you'll never know. It will take you 3 months of practice of this, which most people who attended the workshop in this weekend will never do. I know. They'll never do this recording as they need to do for the next 3 months, every day, 30 minutes. They don't have the time, they don't have the desire. The practice doesn't choose them. If a person will do it, like those guys here who somehow found a way to do it, they receive the gifts. And that is what I believe, and I let it take care of it. So thankfully, I'm still invited. Like next week, I'm in Los Angeles. I'm working with an MLB player, or working with people in Los Angeles, very famous people come to me, invite me. Still, the remains of my old manipulations. But in the future, I don't think I will be invited much. The more radical I become, the more aligned with the message, the more honest with myself, the less popular I am. The more muscles I took off my frame, the less I took my shirt off, the less handstands I do, the less slogans I spit out, the less it is for the general public. It cannot be for the general public. The general public is comprised of idiots. And this is the reality. Look at the wars we're in. Look at those, systems. I'm not a pop star anymore. I'm not working as a pop star, thankfully. And I want to thank you for this opportunity and bringing and opening the stage, and also trying to do something very honest, down to earth, like we talked when you went to the toilet. Bring me water, somebody crossing, and keeping something like a stain on my shirt, like I said, in your basic down to earth way that allows this to be both potent but very real as well. That's fresh.
I think it's necessary. At least for us, we don't know how to do it from a different place. It's there's been podcasts that I came here literally almost crying, and you can see throughout the podcast that I am in a different space, and I say I'm sorry today, I'm not in that space.
Beautiful.
And I think that's how human beings. I don't know, man. I think we live that performance constantly, as you said, and we all have remains of that performance. True. And it's okay. True. It's okay to observe and be aware of that. It's okay to fuck up, but be aware that you are doing certain things for the sake of something else. As you said, I was aware of certain part of manipulation there. I am aware myself of a certain part of manipulation as well, because I'm aware that this change in my life, from just being an offline person with his thing and his work, but offline, and now jumping there, I still need to play some kind of things there that slowly, through connecting with your own coherence, you will understand when it's time to drop them. We don't all have to go at the same timing, same pacing.
Totally.
And it's amazing to observe and not judge, because as we always say, everyone is paying the price of everything they're doing. Mm-hmm. Everybody. That's why I don't judge, and I've judged people like, for example, girls on OnlyFans. They're paying the price. You don't know it, but they're paying the price. And they will pay the price in the future, When I heard an interview of one of these girls, she was asked, you know that your son one day will have to go to therapy because of the job you're doing? And she was like, at least he will go on a Ferrari. And I was like, wow, this is the society we're bringing up, And but I'll observe and don't judge, because in the end, the same way I'm probably being judged by someone else, and I don't want to be judged, because we are in the process. We always give this example, and I think you will connect with it, which is there was a man on a metro, on a train, with 2 children. And those 2 children, they were making a big mess, a huge mess. Everyone was judging the father, saying, what the fuck, man? You don't know how to treat your children? You don't know how to control your children? They're bothering everyone. One of the guys went to the father and he said, I'm sorry, but your children are bothering a lot. And he said, he came back to reality, and he was like, I'm so sorry. Their mom just died in the hospital, and I don't know how to tell them that the mom died. We don't know what's in people's head. We don't know what's in your reality. That's why at some point we as humans, I bring back kindness as also a form of service. What you did, right? We really thank you. The way you said hello to us.
I also felt it from you. It was immediate thing. Just an open face, a gesture kindness that you do to invite.
And I think that if we bring that to society again, it's part of the practice as well. You know, so sometimes we tend to get lost in certain complexities because we're in different levels in life. But for some people, kindness is the first step into practice.
True.
And it's beautiful to see. At least I see it that way, you know. And it takes a lot of weight from my shoulders. Wow, what a beautiful talk, man! I'm very grateful to be here.
Same for me.
Do you have a question?
No, just
no, but I'm gonna make it.
No, but no was referral to a first comment that I want to share. You have a similar face in genetics, guys. You know that? I was seeing without knowing you in front, and then telling me it's like Homer a little bit, same genetics. Yours Israeli, or I don't know.
But my family comes from
20 kilograms more.
Well, I'm not that heavy. I'm only 78 kilos.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, he looks more heavy.
Okay, only 10 kilos.
I'm thin.
Only 10 kilos. I'm very light. I always surprise people.
Like me. We never know. Maybe you can realize, but he has a great capacity because he has not big bones, you know, to put blood on the
muscle bellies
and muscle development. I can do more push-ups or more training, but I never look like this. You know, there's something in we were talking on the coffee shop, the biotype. You know, I don't know, genetics, archetype. You talk about archetype. Just a question that I have, more simple question.
You have 15 minutes remaining.
Okay. Let's go. I'm interested on what you are enjoying in movement because you master all of these abilities. I see you on the workshop how you move. It's obviously, but I'm not interested in how you show me.
Yeah.
The big tricks. I'm interested in how you enjoy because you have that body, you know, and in this age and this moment, we don't know tomorrow. So for me, many times that state of glory that we are pointing on, it's more related with the simplicity, but in the good way of simplicity in the present moment. So I'm just doing the one-arm handstand. Why you? I don't know. I'm just happy, man. You're crazy. If you have the question, you're crazy, man. There's here the ground, and there's that possibility, like a kid. So I'm interested in how you enjoy movement. Do you feel picking weights enjoyable for you, or calisthenics, or sprinting, or just moving, or just dancing?
Well, at a certain point, the whole idea is that everything becomes enjoyable. That is the sign of a good practice, where you become this critical mass, embodied. And again, like, everybody is embodied, and everybody is not embodied to a certain degree. But there is phase shifts. And most people these days, especially in the West, we don't have that critical mass. Imagine it's like over 50%, you're there. Less, doesn't cross the threshold. So once you hit that place and you feel your body unity, one, not wandering focus or not a concept, then everything becomes pleasurable. So I don't need to do much. Stand, little movements, or lift weights, or run. Do whatever, fight. It's all becomes the same because the body is there doing it. So in the weekend, I'm doing with you guys, and it's just it's accessible. It's there. I don't need to warm up for it or to do this. It's there. It's immediately there. Or yesterday I went to do a photo shoot for a friend who is a director, and we had like a few hours where I need to do stuff. It's like, okay, what do you want to do? Okay, so we just did it. Working on the floor, working with a partner, with a stick, whatever there is. And I used to need to prepare for it, to prepare those things. Now it's like, it's just there because it's embodied. It's like an animal. It will not forget how to move. That is what is becoming exciting with the time. And then it's easy, it's cool. It's like I'll do later today some one-arm chin-ups to keep myself there. So I'll practice, do some exercises, handstand push-ups. It's there, it's easy. But I'm not attached to it. And I don't need it to be that. It can be something else. I can be standing still for an hour or doing chin-ups for an hour or something else. As long as I'm there, it's kind of similar. But if I'm not there, none of it matters. And then I have to be enamored by the thought. I'm doing a one-arm handstand and how cool. Actually, it's not a visceral orgasm. It's not an enjoyment on the flesh. It's an enjoyment up here. If you examine it really, it's not like your orgasm or a sneeze. You know how a good sneeze feels good? That's why you sneeze. Because it pulls you to do that. It's a type of an unfoldment similar to an orgasm, which reaches this full honesty because the nature doesn't trust you to take that out of your nose. So it makes that process. And the same nature doesn't trust you to make children, to reproduce. That you come in there and it's like, that feels weird, but I'm going to do it still. It doesn't work that way. Right? It creates this process that unfolds and has this specific quality, and movement usually is not happening in that way. You're more thinking about your muscles, how you look. You check yourself in the mirror, and you're thinking, I can do a one-arm chin-ups. These guys cannot do even two, or something like this. And this is nothing. This is not really powerful or really truly enjoyable. That is the answer. I hope it provides something.
Thank you very much.
It's beautiful that you mentioned the mirror thing, because we left the workshop and I told Uri, I just got an image of how through having mirrors in our lives, we started shifting the focus from who I have in front to seeing oneself, right? It's something that in nature you don't find. Only when you go find water, you see the reflection of yourself. But nowadays, we're seeing ourselves constantly. I think it creates a kind of disruption in the perception that we have of ourselves, and we give too much importance to certain parts. And we think less in the collective and who is outside, less in service, right?
Mirrors and intercourse are both damned, for they multiply the people. It's from Jorge Luis Borges. And mirrors and intercourse and sex are both damned because they multiply the people. Which people? The wrong people, the egos, right? And they have this quality. I actually, maybe people will not believe or not, but I rarely look at the mirror. I live really not with the presence of the mirror, and I think it is a very good practice to have that, like the animal that does not see its reflection much. Not to conceptualize. Sometimes I'm surprised because all of a sudden I look at the mirror and I realize, wow, I've changed so much. And it's like in my head it's still not that, because I'm not, and I think it's so potent. It's so potent not to address so much the mirror and every little change and take care of this or that, but not neglect yourself in any way. That would be the other side. No,
but I think working or practicing with our mirror changes a lot the experience.
Without music, without mirror, sometimes taking off these things, and sometimes you can bring them back on, and you can. They're very useful.
But that's something I didn't like from certain places or even yoga and stuff, right? That there was a comparison in a reflection. And that's why I love calisthenics, because I go to the park, I take off my shoes, I get half naked in the sun, and I just enjoy movement in silence, touching the ground, not watching myself, just being there, right? And it's something that probably my body takes that way instead of the gym, which is one thing that we've all been in the gym.
And pumping to try to be more attractive.
But related to mirrors, what do you think is the part of aesthetics in society and nature? Because now, when you observe nature, every animal needs to go through a process of a certain formation of aesthetics to either survive or pair. So it's a very natural thing, right? What is your point on that related to the human being?
Aesthetics originally are there to take care again of things that we might not have taken care of. Immediately that sense of aesthetic attraction or repulsion appears to orient our behavior. That is the aesthetics that arise naturally from nature. But then we have also cultural aesthetics that are later distorting this, sometimes going against it, like heroin chic, moving away from, Renaissance women. Look at the difference at both sides, etc. And so it keeps changing. What is aesthetics in that original sense? It is there to convey certain attributes, skill, or certain attributes, genetic attributes. What is the aesthetics of skill? What would be the aesthetic of skill?
The way someone moves.
Yeah, yes. You immediately recognize
the way someone
that's
talks.
Efficient. That's why you don't say efficient, you say it's beautiful. For example, sound is the mark of inefficiency often. If I place my hand that way, immediately it has an aesthetic, like what we talked a little bit, that cat-like thing. Nothing added, nothing taken away. The cat will jump to the table like this, not like a dog. And that quality is telling me, there is skill here. There is a quality here. What is a beautiful face? Communicates. Originally.
Health,
fertility, possibility.
Fertility, etc.
Protection.
I want to have children with that. Or, watch out, careful. Look at those forearms, look at that neck.
Mike Tyson.
Yeah, watch out. This is dangerous. You want to be in that tribe, not against that tribe. This is where the origin of aesthetic is. And then what did we do? We started to distort this. And we start to work with it, to change, to improve the aesthetics. Will improving the aesthetics of my movement will improve the skill of my movement? If I just address the aesthetics, will it address the skills?
No. Well, it could be.
Not necessarily. That would be the full answer. But here is an example. Take Federer. Imagine you try to beautify his movement. What will happen to his tennis game? You will destroy it. That was the question, remember, about the rotational training, etc. Not that I'm against rotation training, again. But the point was, you got to be careful what you're messing here with. Because there is a certain aesthetics that is arising from the performance. And we have to know how far can we go. We don't try to beautify his movement. We try to improve his movement. It's a little different. The same way you have all this fascination with asses these days. The original thing, back in the 90s, when I went to Brazil and I saw first time an ass, a Brazilian S. That was a
That was
a
impressive.
phase shift. That was a
breakneck.
that was a phase shift, an immediate thing. Now, what happens these days is very different. The trained S is not that S that comes from a certain power, both in male and female, the glutes. Wow, there is reproductive capacity, and I'm attracted. Now it's just an S. We found a better way to grow the S to the levels that I didn't see in the 90s. It's more now, with surgeries or with specific training that actually damages the athletic attributes of the person. Because it is not in unison with the rest of the musculature. For example, they don't want to have the hamstrings too big or the quads too big because they want the contrast, but then it does not match. So it's less athletic. Natural S is something. In boxing, you know that because a natural heavyweight is not the same as someone who grew into a heavyweight. And you'll never have that power.
Wow.
You'll never have the George Foreman hammers that was naturally a big guy. I was once 82 kilograms.
82?
82 kilograms and 7% body fat. So I'm like 17 kilograms away from that. So all my skin here, you see the ribs, all my lower back, everything. I was huge. I'm a tiny guy, 1 meter 70. So I bulldog, and I was doing backflips really high, huge body. And I tell you, in terms of performance, it was damaging to me in many ways. It took me years to understand. This is only in my way. I have to take this off because I have to drag this shit everywhere and feed it all the time with glycogen, with all this stuff. It's very costly. And but it's not the only truth, because sometimes the muscles are very useful, and there is a balance point, right? So I also became too skinny at a certain point, and then find a more good position for myself, because I want to be able to go like we went with these guys to an island, trekking somewhere into a traditional culture, and I was eating there once a day only, while we are trekking, while we are doing everything. I want to know that I can do it. If I went with 17 kilogram extra muscles, you better believe I would have been stripping that away, miserable, hungry the whole time, couldn't handle it. I want to know that I can do it. Now I'm more sustainable in any scenario. And I feel this is a good balance with the aesthetic side as well. I don't like to work directly with the aesthetics. I like it to be there, to be aware of it, as a consequence. Yeah. Thank you for a great question.
Yeah, and it also it allows the people to understand fully, because there is no. We've been to interviews that there were just questions and answers, and it's not the same.
Yeah.
I think interviews are dead. It's about conversating. It's about sharing. It's about opening. When only one part opens, it doesn't work the same way.
Of course, of course.
And if we want the interviewee to open, we need to open ourselves. There's no other way.
Another thing, there are a bunch of tools most people are not really that much aware of, even if they know those things, but they don't use those tools, that cannot be cultivated in that form. For example, storytelling. Like I shared a few stories, and it takes a moment. Or riddles, or lies. I also lied to you a number of times, which is another practice. Because if I just go straight, I'm not leaving any unresolved thing. So it's nothing major, but or the tall tale, the different ways of interacting, or the analogies, all these things. Because if I just say it as it is, if you interview me, question, answer, I'm actually killing the opportunity to learn. With children, it's extremely important. So I advise parents a lot to use the power of stories, of analogies, metaphors, tall tales, riddles. Creating this opportunity is what develops us. And thankfully, I received it a lot and come from a culture that cultivates that. And I think it's very powerful. And Cervantes, that totally useless book that is so important, right? That is so crucial, as if we could have been without it, but not. We need that.
Yeah, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of life, man. It's this puzzle. I see life something as a puzzle, and I know that a lot of people say it already, but most of the time, the path that we take, without us even knowing that we're taking the path, in the end makes a lot of sense for the puzzle we're making. And we say the sentence that do not believe you're smarter than life itself. You can only take the first step. Life will take the next. You can put the direction. You can be like, okay, my intention is going into this direction. It's your intention. We'll see what life expects from you as well, or brings, And that's a part of acceptance that I love it, because we've been touching words, right? Like in the end, our kind of values, or key points, key words, like acceptance, accepting life. Who accepts life? I have a family member that he's in a complicated situation, health-wise. There's no acceptance. What do you see as a consequence? That it gets worse, but not in the physical, in the perception.
Yeah.
And the perception is almost everything nowadays. And working through that, we go back to Michael Talbot and the holographic reality, and how it was beautiful to see that you bring on the table on your workshops not only movement itself, but the practice of life, even the relationship with God, even the relationship with our own reality and narrative. People don't know that we are a camera inside of our brain. We create the reality. This is not the way we think it is. We create it in a way to make it understandable, to make it functional, but has nothing to do with sometimes with what we really see, And
for the benefit of our practice and our becoming, which is sometimes people ask, why? Why is it this way? Why cannot we interact with reality as it is? We are constantly constructing it for the sake of our practice. It's just another proof in the pudding that since it is about our practice, it makes us view it in a very specific way, exactly the way that we need it to be. Always exactly the way that we need it to be. It's perfect.
If you had to choose a relationship you have with the concept of God or life itself, what would it be?
Practice.
Practice.
This is the word. That is the messenger. That is God's word here. That is the laws, all the rules, all the laws that we know. They are representing the practice, this concept. Like physical laws, various other laws, deeper laws, laws of everything. There are still rumors, there still remains, like hermetics or various things that, we talked about in the workshop. There was a mention of Hermes.
Hermes Trismegistus.
Right? So these things are just parts of the practice, like everything practices, nature practices. We are now at practice. Like this thing that is running is not just wasting glycogen away, and it's for the sake of practice. Developing an awareness of oneself and regaining it again and again from the cell into God, from the atom into God, from the subparticle into God. In the sense that also they're not really that different. The bacteria and God, which is something almost sacrilegious in some places to say. But if you understand it, like we talked in that text that we read together in the workshop, it goes into it. It cannot be any other way. But God is not defined by that particle, but it is more that particle than the particle is the particle.
I think you made a beautiful analogy in the workshop, and it's something I mentioned a couple of times when I've done some meditations with my own cells, with my body, because I think the same way you mentioned it as well, the same way that ourselves, they don't know that we are their consciousness or their God, but they do their thing. and our consciousness, who we are, is their God. And I send them messages of work for me well, and I'll take care of you. It's a fractality of what we live with the bigger picture, no? And I wanted to talk about the concept of fractality, because again, nowadays we tend to go to the biggest thing we can. The most money, the most people, reach more. And as I mentioned the other day, like expansion for the sake of expansion is cancer cells. We don't need that. I'm a big fan of treating the square meter, the local thing, and from there, fractality will happen. What do you think on that regard? Because you have a lot of reach to a lot of people as well.
Yeah, it's about, for me, what I try to align with is facilitating the conditions and stepping away. Instead of the doing, I'm going to do it. No, I open the window and air will come in. I don't pump the air in with some commercial air conditioning machine that we developed that fucking open the window. To facilitate storms, powerful storms, if you know how to knock the dominoes correctly, which is also inside of us. You go to my mother is a psychologist, but she's not a traditional psychologist. She's a practitioner. She's been practicing with me for many years now, and she was before me in that concept, studying Buddhism. But in psychology, that took so much of a center stage. Let's do, let's change. You're just shifting around the elements. Shifting them on the chessboard, but it's the same. They all stay on the chessboard. It looks a little bit different. For example, I don't like my anger, so I find a way that my anger will not be there anymore. Not through real transformation as the cause of the anger, but by some other thing, maybe a podcast trick that somebody put out. And then what comes to me is much worse than anger. Maybe come to me depression as a result of it. We don't talk about that. We don't look at those attempts to fix things. For example, I do a plastic surgery to my nose, and the rest of my face have to change to adapt to my new nose. Nobody talks about it, but you can see it. The face does not stay the same. And now you disrupted something because maybe the distance is too large. We don't know the consequence of it. Charles Poliquin used to talk about having earrings in the belly button as a very damaging thing for one's meridian system. I don't know about the system, but it can mean if you make, for example, I have a lot of practices with the tone that I do. I work with the tone. In my eyes, to make an earring in the tone might be costly. It can make sense to me because I've seen so many changes from working with the tone and the jaw that it would be logical. But when you facilitate the conditions, you're a lot more, you are free of those risks. You don't try to jump up there. You open a certain door, and if it's too cold, you can easily close it or something else. But you know how with air conditioning, you can never find that exact point. It's always like a bit below it, and the other person in the door, in the room wants to change it.
Well, it's like the story from Haberman that you explained about the space pen.
Yes.
They developed the space pen for so many years, and the Russians just went with the pencil.
Yes.
As easy as that.
Yeah.
Sometimes we try to complicate.
It's a totally different state of mind.
Yeah.
It's totally different. One is oriented by a certain way of doing things, which is not about even solving the problem. Why would you it's just an urban myth, by the way. I'm not sure it's even true, but that's not the point. The story works even better when it's not true.
Yes.
The point is more that, when somebody some special forces somewhere go to a mission and they have all these weapons, German weapons, Heckler and Koch, super accurate light, everything. Little grain of sand comes into the mechanism, you're standing with your dick in your hand. you have issues. But the old Kalashnikov, the old AK from Russia, you have videos of people shooting on automatic while somebody is pouring from a sand bucket into the mechanism, and it keeps running. Now, one approach is this kind of Soviet approach. Maybe it's heavy, maybe it's inaccurate, but it will work in the water, in the sand, in everything. The other is this hyper-specialized thing, Shilajit water with these things. The question is, one day my Shilajit is not there.
Yeah. What happens?
What happens? And I have to take care of it. That way, I can use the Shilajit, but I can also not use the Shilajit. And I take it away from myself as part of the practice to realize. Or various other implements, that we're constantly using. So that facilitation is more of a question. It's much more difficult to do. How do I get this to work versus how do I make it work? How will this work by itself versus how do I make it work? Let's develop the business, let's do this, let's do that. No. You are in a fight. You tie your shoelaces and the punch flies over your head. You don't try to avoid the punch. It's almost like it happens to you. In the sense that I just need to open that window. I need to, for example, I want to move here. I just let go of something and my body moves here. I want to move there. I just let go of something else and it moves there. I don't push my body around. That would be stupid. But we don't see it. So we act with everything like, I'm going to conquer. Here's an example. My old trick with my girlfriends. One of my ex-girlfriends, when we met, I hired her. She was a dancer, and I hired her to teach me dance because I heard that people say classical ballet is one of the hardest practices there is, and you don't know nothing about movement until you dance classical. Now, with my body, to dance classical is hell, but I did it for a period of time. And I hired her as my personal, teacher. And came in this beautiful girl. I was like, oof. So we had a few classes and we have good chemistry. And then something came to my head. So when I went to pee, I left the door a little bit open. She couldn't see me. Don't get the wrong message. But the door was left a little bit open and she could hear. And it created in the background a sense of comfort together. Like you would do with someone who you, without even minding. That's facilitating the conditions. That's to be the trickster in the best possible way. In the way that now it creates something, and something changed from that. There was a comfort together instead of waiting another 3 months. We can, with our children, for example, we can make these things happen. I don't want to go there. If you're smart, within a minute or two, you flip the situation. But we don't practice enough to sometimes be able to do it. And this is a process that we want to cultivate with ourselves and with other ones. For example, have you ever convinced someone that you argued with? Try to agree with someone. See how quickly you actually flip his opinion. Basic.
Yeah.
Basic.
It's actually like wrestling.
Yeah.
It's
in
actually
many
like
ways.
jiu-jitsu.
In many ways.
Yeah, it's movement with the mind.
Yeah, somebody comes to me and says, this was a shitty workshop. You did this. Wow, you know what? You're right. You're right. I was like, you didn't even talk to him. And slowly, as I continue to agree, he starts to flip into telling me this was the best workshop of his life. Now, I'm a manipulator. Yes, I am. For the sake of something greater than me, but I am a manipulator. If you're not a manipulator, you don't understand how things work here. We manipulate everyone. You said before, I don't judge, but you can't
judge,
avoid.
of course,
yeah,
of course.
you can't avoid it. We always judge, but we are checking it. So when we use the language, and I know with you, because I already feel, of course, you mean that thing. We judge all the time. I saw you from far away with your bike. I already judged. I already had exactly the idea who she is, what she did, what is going on, and how I can avoid it. This is what the organism is doing. It formulates and it protects me and it creates an understanding. But then I can check it and I can say, stop judging. Maybe this is wrong. Maybe this is different. Maybe this is here. And then I can start to choose. This is the best way to unfold things, to be very aware, hyper aware. 4K, 8K, when maybe before you were 1080, something. You are seeing the situations and the options, also physically. To win in a boxing match without doing much. There has been such examples. Even there is a famous round in boxing that has been won without one punch being thrown. You can put it on YouTube and see it.
Really?
Yeah. It's like he got the points, he won the round, and he doesn't throw one punch.
Wow.
By totally frustrating, totally moving, but he didn't throw any punch. So it's known as the only boxing round that has been won without throwing a single punch. And this is for me the highest level of mastery. To be silent.
Wow.
To wait another moment for the other person to understand that he's ridiculous without saying you're ridiculous or changing something or...
And not having to prove yourself. Like, so for example, what you mentioned about Mayweather, right? Like that person that analyzes the situation for 3 rounds. I don't care if people think I am weak in these 3 rounds. There's a bigger picture here that only I understand. And that is something that we have lost. The bigger picture that only me understands, because we are constantly... looking for that validation of what I'm doing is too silent, what I'm doing is too loud, what I'm doing is too... And we're constantly there, like we catch ourselves constantly in that space, and especially nowadays. But it's not easy as well to... there's a lot of noise around.
Oh.
There's a lot of noise, man. And a lot of noise... I don't know if you one day want to become a father, or you have ideas into that regard, or you want to give yourself to the practice and this project.
People ask me about tomorrow.
You don't know.
I only know today, right? But the thing for me, which sits in the heart of that decision, which is that I don't know. And out of a place of not knowing, this never made sense for me. But at the same time, it is clear to me that it is not a better decision than the other side. It's of equal importance, since I don't know. Maybe I'm missing an opportunity, or I don't know, maybe I make a mistake. It's the same. Yeah. So there is no higher ground. But out of this, for me, it was not a situation that I wanted to bring kids into that not knowing. And especially looking around and seeing certain, tendencies and possibilities and options. So that was what happened.
Yeah, I understand you. Sometimes we talk about that, that we brought our children into a noisy world, difficult, but at the same time we're like, man, someone has to do the job here, because otherwise we are in a state that we try to live our life from a certain place and bring that example, or what you said, like being the teaching downwards. And at least you have your students, which actually your
kids.
children.
Yeah, and some of them have been with me from a very young age.
That's what
well.
I mean.
which is I'm a father in many ways. You're right. And
That's what I mean. That your purpose is already there.
yes.
In our case, the purpose is those. He has a 4-year-old. I have a 6-year-old, and we don't put everything on them, because I think that's another extra responsibility that we don't have to bring to our children. It's their life. This is my life. But at least I know that, for example, just a little example, you don't know how to hug or love if you haven't seen love. You need a reference, and when you see that you're doing the work, and I see my son, sometimes we have a fight, and we are like, no, the fight is not a problem. What we need to show is that there's a resolution. And you see the eyes of the little one, opening, like understanding how these two, that they were screaming before, and now they're hugging, and he's looking at that. Like, for me, that's part of the practice, and that's why becoming a father was a rite of passage that really changed my reality. But I understand that you have thousands of children around the world. So,
and there's many options in life. He mentioned he really don't know if this is a right decision, wrong, missing an opportunity. Me too. You too.
Yeah.
When
it's the same position. Because I also did many things which I wasn't sure about. So how can I judge someone bringing a child? There are many decisions that I made that I also didn't know, but I chose to engage with. So it's not any better or worse decision than anyone else, but it's just a place that I found myself in and contemplating in that specific way. It's also, we as male don't have the same calling, which I also try to respect and to see, but it
doesn't come normally from our side.
We are programmed to do the action, but not necessarily the to follow through.
Which is part of the practice as well. When you have that child and you understand that you are still not a father, even though you are a father, but you're not. You're learning. I mean, the mom is a mom. The father is not a father. And then you have to grow into that role and understand that, and go through the practice of being just an assistant, and being just a companion, and being just someone who brings something but gets nothing. And that's big practice.
Beautiful, honest things that many times never mentioned.
Man, it's to be a father, you lose yourself. You have to say goodbye to your old self. You die.
Especially until we are in that space, until the kid is 7 years old, 7 or 8 years old, he is in love with mom.
Yeah.
And he falls out in the park, even playing with the father. Mama, and I'm here, man, strong, ready for you, gaining my money. He wants mom, and that's a great practice to be aware of.
To love without conditions.
Yes, and keep.
I hate you, Dad. You will hear it if you didn't yet.
Of course.
And that is another practice. And I love you. Yes. I hate you, Dad, and I love you.
I'm waiting for the teenage.
Oh my God!
To hear that.
No, my son. Sometimes he already says that. When I encounter parents that they're pregnant, I say one thing that really changed my perspective is the day you understand that you will have to stop expecting every time you give, and you will just give independently from the reward you get. That's when you're gonna start being a father and a mother, because the river only goes downwards. There's no other way. The river always goes. The stream goes downwards, and we believe a lot in systemic and constellation in terms of society, and I think this society is taking roles that are going upstream sometimes, forcing that water, as you said, instead of letting yourself go to that place, forcing that. Even life is telling you don't do that, but you're forcing that, somehow. Yeah. So it's very powerful. I think, I don't know, we could talk for hours, man, but it's. I would like to ask, because we're gonna start slowing down. Because we could go 5 hours here. Do you have one of your biggest reference in life, or one of your biggest reference, that person, that thing, that concept, besides practice, that could appear in your mind, that could help people understand a little bit more who Ido is?
Well, we remained on the talk on the concept of being inside the question, which is another way to look at things. To live within the question, not to resolve, not to look for a solution or answers, not in the look of that. That is very powerful perspective and very close to heart. It's another permutation or phase of the practice. And those people who've been a reference for me are the people who represents that. They walk around with a t-shirt with a question mark on it. It's the people who asked the questions, remained with the questions, and did not become asleep once again by receiving an answer or by formalizing or finalizing. And that comfort to be within that is what really creates the transformation. Without that, you kill the transformation. There is no more loading, no more current. And I view it nowadays as people don't have questions.
And also there's a lot of people with lots of answers.
Yeah.
Lots of dogmas.
And a lot is devoted to the answers.
Yeah.
Like, for example, all these podcasts are all about answers.
Yeah.
But where's the podcast who are all about the questions? There are a few. There are people like that, but it's very, very few. And when we get the questions, we don't value it. It's like, I didn't receive any answers there. For example, this podcast. Somebody's going to listen to it, spend all these hours. What the hell was going on there? I'm looking for something pragmatic. What do they ask me all the time? Actionable bits. Give me something I can use. I give you the most important thing, a point of reference to change the rest of your life. In my eyes, this is the most potent thing. Start to unpack. But they want some little piece of advice of some morning ritual, routine, something, It's all good, but it's icing. It's very little importance compared to this. So to live inside the question and to say, I don't know, and to keep questioning, and also teaching your children to ask the right questions, not to answer only. That is natural. That is there. But to ask, where is God now? How do you answer that? When you read Don Quixote, that makes questions. When you read the text that we read this weekend, that creates questions. Now, we want to resolve. That's all good. But more important, it created questions. This is going to be the waves we're going to surf on. We need those waves.
Even when my kid question, he's in the phase of questioning a lot, not right now. Many times, because I am burnout, I just do that practice. What do you think?
Yeah.
Not answering. Well, Papa, because the dog is doing this thing and he don't have our same
hand.
What do you think? What do you think? And he said sometimes incredible answers. Maybe with a mix of imagination and possibilities that looks weird, but it's interesting practice too. To me, like an adult,
of course,
formed adult.
And without this for him, he cannot practice. So you're going to give him all these answers, which anyways, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're giving these answers and we are not, you can't even verify 1 + 1 = 2 anymore.
Yes.
It's like, it's not verified. It's like,
yes.
When we were in school and they gave us these pieces and you had one and another one, and now you had to, this is the understanding. But we let go of it. All we talk about are rumors, people. Hey, did you hear that the brain does this? Did you hear that this does that? You don't know shit. You've heard it somewhere and someone heard it somewhere. It's all rumors. You didn't verify it. Practice is about verification for oneself. So then when you ask your kid, why do you think he's starting a process there? And you give a real gift instead of saying that's how it is. There is evolution by Charles Darwin. This is like they taught us in school. The really good schools, those unique schools that exist, teaching you how to ask the question. You write the textbooks for yourself. There is such schools. For example, there used to be such a school in Russia, in the mountains. I watched once a documentary. It's called The School. And there, the children write the textbook by themselves. Wow. For the next year, they receive it, but they write it again better. And there is all these processes. Or if you even look at Waldorf schooling, Steiner, or various other methods, they're not perfect. They have a lot of issues, but they also have great advantages compared to industrial education that we have, where it's all about the answers. You are better than, you receive 10 and you receive 8 because you answered, but I want to receive 10 and 8 for the one who asked the better questions. That is a totally different thing. This is what my practice is about. So when you came to me this weekend and we practiced, I asked you to, as in your movement, to create the right things. And those who were waiting for technicalities, they couldn't. So it was done on a very low level. But with practice and experience, it will elevate you. You will take ownership of your car and you will truly transform how you move, not by some technical repetition of Ido's movement. You'll become better at Ido's movement. I don't want that. I want your movement to improve. That is very difficult to do, believe me. If some people, someone out there ever called me a movement expert of any sort, then I'll tell you from that position of fake authority that there are very few people on this planet capable of teaching you really movement, to transform your physical movement. All we're getting is technical improvements. You become better at what you do. Movement is a game called becoming better at what you never did. That is the testing ground.
Wow, I think it's a beautiful way to finish the podcast. I would love to keep the door open for a second round one day because, man, this was a very inspiring conversation, and I think the world really will appreciate a second round of it. And
we'll do it. 3
men just sharing raw about life and experience. And thanks a lot, Ido.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. Enjoyed it.
Thank you. Coming from you, it's a big compliment, and I want to thank Uri for you've been brave, man. I love it.
Thank you to you and to our audience. It's been tough for me, even follow your words and be aware of and focus, because it's not I'm not that skilled to be relaxed and catch all the words. I've been there.
Thank you for that effort.
Yes, it's been you've been in a rite of passage for us. It's our first podcast in English, and the first of many, I hope, because we want to open that door to the rest of the world. So thanks a lot for starting this new practice for us in English.
Thank you, guys.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ido.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.